that feed
That's
was
fucking
trying to
okay.
get a lot
Because
of
after that
things
walk
right.
up that goddamn hill, that shit was legit.
That's totally understandable. All right, guys, I just want you to know we are now live on the internet.
Oi.
Yeah, so
I see. Not pretty good.
We got APD choppers holding post on top of us.
yeah.
Please don't take me eating hot dogs with like taking wider.
Well, right now, if you go to Zach's stream room, you only see. Oh, the only thing that you can see is Damien, and they
I wish
can
I'd been
hear
smart
us.
enough to switch this to landscape
Yeah.
view,
Okay.
but fuck it. Here's your portrait
Okay,
view
we're live.
bullshit.
Yes, we're live.
Awesome. And this
Yeah.
is Damien's?
This is Damien. So we have a guy on the ground right now.
Awesome.
Hey, Damien.
No peace!
He can't hear us.
No peace!
Can we tell where he is?
No peace!
He is. I'm trying to figure out where he is.
No peace!
That
Yeah.
looks like it's around Centennial.
Yeah, it looks
Yeah,
like
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's Centennial.
No. Oh, shit. God, I want a fucking cigarette right now.
Damien.
Is there a way we can post a couple of websites and resources for people to donate to the bail relief for people in Atlanta and other places across the country?
I can try to manage that in the chat. Give me a
Okay.
second here.
Yeah.
I don't have my own chat open right now. There
That's
we go.
totally fair.
Yeah. So yeah, if you shoot me the links, I can get them in the chat. I'm gonna open up Discord on this side too, so I can pull it up. Because
Okay.
to manage
How'd they
this,
pull
I
them
have two computers running at
Gotcha.
the same time. Yeah. Which is pretty standard of how this sort of thing works. Don't worry, it's going to be a clusterfuck. Don't worry about being non-professional. It's what it
Too
is.
late.
Yeah.
I have a feeling my phone might try to turn the screen off at some point.
It should stay on if you're in video.
I'll tell you one thing though, the ice cream man knows what's
But the
up.
last time I've done this, it's kept doing it.
Oh, that
That
sucks.
cat is about this life.
I don't know. Something about the way the app works. Wow.
Gotta finish off some fucking water here.
All right, Zach, I'm just going to be sending you links as I can find them.
Okay, give me a second, because it's
Sure
going to
thing, no rush.
to get that. This other laptop is slow as balls.
Yeah, just whenever you get to it, I'm sending them your way.
Yeah.
So, like, to pause the kind of notion of a question, it's one thing, a lot of the protesters are going to be, like, because if you're in Atlanta, you're on camera.
So,
Like,
Right.
Atlanta has the most cameras in all cities in the world. But, like, literally the cops and National Guard guys, they're not realizing
there you go.
they're going to get docked.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that, they're just doing a job, and I even understand that a good amount of them, if not most of them, are legitimately just trying to be, like, legitimate about it, and they're taking orders, and then you get
Oh hell, I don't even know
We're
what
just taking
intersection
orders.
I'm at.
Right.
It's Centennial Olympic
like,
Park.
They're
No
going to get
shit.
docked. And the rest of their lives, they're going to be known as being the guys that were throwing tear gas and beating the shit out of protesters.
Yeah.
And, like, wasn't that big of an issue back in the 1960s where a whole bunch of racist white people would beat the shit out of a whole bunch of black people and say, oh, that's just my job. But it's 2020.
Yeah, I'm doing something dumb as shit.
Yeah.
And that's something that I guess nobody
Right
has
here.
alerted to them. And
The good thing though is all the body posture's a lot more
like,
relaxed.
I'm not really a big
course,
fan
it's not
of
9
like
o'clock
going
yet.
after somebody 20 years after they were like a guard at a
That's
what
matters.
but there's plenty of people that are. So
Well, I don't know if the city of Atlanta or any sort of states or other cities
do
have
your thing,
offered
just
their
don't break it.
police any protection.
Don't break your ass even.
I don't know if that's a factor for any of these people, or I could be wrong. Someone can correct me, but I feel like I saw some police in Atlanta, and I know I've seen it in other
trust falls
states,
off of that.
where the police were staying with or coming onto the sides of the protesters and sitting with the protesters for moments of silence. And I would like to see more of that. And if the city of Atlanta, their police department could do that, then I think that would be a great first beginning effort in moving forward with police public relations.
that's happening in Columbus, Ohio, and like
Okay.
Houston,
He's got
and,
Floyd spray painted in black on his
effectively
grip tape.
Marietta, Kennesaw have had
That's good.
minor
On the front of his
protests,
deck.
and it's been always absolutely peaceful.
I said
Not that they're
D-E-C-K,
doing
not
that, but
D-I-C-K.
yeah, they
Which
are,
mine's out the gutter, damn it.
working together. But yeah,
Right.
That's quite simply it. It's one thing to be the cop that's working with the community. It's another thing to be a cop to keep people up. And
Right,
I know,
absolutely.
like, for instance, my dad, who himself is a Trump voter, for as much as that is, he quit the force in the 80s before I was born because of that kind of bullshit, where he saw people in Talladega beating people up for like no fucking reason. And
Oh my God.
he ended up going to the Bureau of Prisons, which you could argue is much worse, but you know, pretty much the same story happened. Nowadays, prisons are privatized, so they can
Right,
get away
right.
with it. But like, if you worked for the federal or state and you did that shit, you know, in the 80s, I guess, yeah, you could get away with it.
Now, the
but
thing is,
through the 90s,
is
it
that
became
over in
very
front of,
apparent
the
that
Capitol,
you don't fuck up.
they popped smoke through tear gas.
Yeah,
Pushed them off.
absolutely.
While my dumb ass was still trying to get
It's
my
really
shit together and
weird.
get down
I
here.
have
It is weird.
A really weird perspective.
Of course, it is in front of the Capitol.
I'm the white
Of
kid
course,
from
people are
Alabama,
fucking
so
nervous.
having learned the lesson the hard way, because I went to Legato schools in Brunswick, and so I'm sure I may have known a lot later in life.
Oh, that's right. You did go there in Brunswick.
peace.
Yeah, I forgot about
Yeah.
that.
No peace.
Yeah, and it really sucks for me to have not done anything for that, and that's because I'm working this job. I just got an interview to try to promote the job, so I can't like find myself in a jail cell right now.
I don't want to do the thing that I
Well,
want to do.
And that's the
I don't think
problem
I'm
with
gonna even do it.
a lot of how
Unless I
our
got to.
our everyday corporate
Of
9 to
course I have
5
it.
jobs work. They want to keep you from
No, I'm not going to
protesting,
antagonize.
from going out in the streets. And I'm
not
not
gonna
saying you
walk up
shouldn't,
across the
if you
line
have a
and
job,
make
you
sure I
can't,
get
or you shouldn't
faces and
accept any
badge names
responsibility.
for every cop.
Obviously, you know, they
Not
have to run
necessarily
a
not this
company, and I
time.
get that. But that is the problem
Everybody,
with how
and I
these
do
things
mean
run.
everybody though, has had their
We are
numbers
afraid
visible.
to protest because
Okay.
we are
They may not be
essentially wage
smiling,
slaves. And
but
we
they're not holding
can't
themselves
mess
in a
up our
hard posture. I'm
day
not gonna
jobs.
aggravate that
So
shit for
our
my own
voices,
fucking ego
we
or
cannot
self-interest.
utilize our voices in the best way possible, or however we see fit, because we're afraid of our
Fuck
job.
it. I'm gonna stop streaming for a minute. I gotta go sit my fat ass the
Just
fuck
right
down.
after the largest unemployment rate since the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder why the protests are happening. There's a lot of
Woohoo.
people
Oh, hey,
that
look.
have jobs and they have
Here's a
literally
drone
nothing to
flying.
do. And so,
Yeah. I mean, even the people who do have jobs, it's like this is a cause that is worth fighting for, that is worth risking any sort of big consequences for.
yeah, Friday night we watched Channel 4 News, and they're strangely somehow more Fox. Like the local Fox
Really?
channel is somehow the local Fox channel has more black people than all the other local people. That's a positive. But I mean,
Alright, I'm gonna turn this off for a
somewhat-
bit. Sit my ass the
They're
fuck
just playing
down.
the concern bracket at Fox.
Yeah.
Almost dropped
you know,
on the walk
and,
over
like,
here.
They're trying to not sound like idiots, but the poor people are fucking idiots. And one of the ladies,
shit, Shylock.
Like, it was underneath the.
Why do you think I just
varsity,
came here with literally just my wallet,
parking garage?
my cane,
Uh-huh.
and my car keys and
And
phone?
like the cops had cleared out that space, and they arrested one girl. And she was like in a day dress. She literally
Yeah.
was like in a day dress, and they're dragging her along. And,
I've also seen.
And
Yeah, whatever.
the lady's like, you don't want to be that girl. She just got arrested. It's like, I don't know, like 50 years from now, she's going to have a hell of a story to tell. And the
Exactly.
cops are going to be like, I was that person that arrested. You know, so it's just
Yeah.
like,
He trying to stop you.
I don't know, I guess just some of the older shitheads realize that they only have so much longer to live anyway, so they're going to be... It's
Right?
weird.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. It's all about, you know, where were you in this moment?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I did learn today that Mr. Huntsman, Mr. Bow and Arrow guy, he got his ass handed to him.
Oh, the guy who was in South Carolina? Was that where he was?
No, he was in Salt Lake City, SLC.
Oh, okay.
It
I knew it was
confused
an
me
S.
forever
Yeah.
too. Yeah, it confused me. I thought it said South Carolina at first. He's actually got charges pressed against him for brandishing a weapon in the middle of that. So when he set
how
up,
long-
he showed up. The person that caught him on videotape at first, he got out of his car. He had drove into the crowd. He got out of his car. He said, "I'm here because all lives matter," and then he pulled out a bow and arrow. And so it's like, clearly all lives don't matter if you intend to shoot people with a bow and arrow. You didn't like end up in the middle of the protest and defend yourself with half a chance of bow and arrow.
Yeah,
You drove out
it's-
with a bow and arrow.
So ridiculous.
And so, yeah, he got his ass handed to him. He got his car turned over, set on fire. The cops
Oh my
actually rescued him at first because they're like, oh, somebody's getting the shit beat out of him. So I guess, that's sensible. Cops would have every point to do that.
Right.
And then, like, about 10 minutes in, they realized what happened. So, like,
Oh my.
the SLC cops
Oh
aren't
my gosh.
as bad
That is
as anybody
ridiculous.
else. They aren't like Houston good, but they aren't bad. They've done some stupid shit. They knocked over another guy, literally an elderly guy with a cane. So that guy just got fired.
Wait, who did that?
doing
The police?
Yeah, like the literal round plastic shield ones with the police on it. I don't know who the fuck manufactured those, but A, they're making a lot of money right now. B, they're gonna get shit on in the future. Yeah, they the cops in SLC had those. They were running to push the protesters out of the way. So a lot of people were running out of the way. There was one elderly man that had a cane, and he literally like couldn't go anywhere. He was just like standing against a tree watching the crowd. He wasn't even a protester. There was news people sitting there watching that, and literally that was caught on the news camera. Like they were just like, oh, here comes the cops, and they're pushing protesters out of the way. And the cops just slammed into this dude, and like they slammed into him over and over again because he wasn't moving quick enough. It's like an old man with the cane. So he fell over, and the cop like doubled around, realized what he did, and tried to pick the guy back up. But yeah, no, that cop's fired. So I mean, yeah, in some places, like in Atlanta, quite a few of the cops are getting fired for some of the bullshit.
6 so
And
far.
good.
6
yeah.
so far.
Yeah.
Well,
and so,
Yeah.
but that doesn't change the fact that what has already happened, because Atlanta is not, the risk zone. Like,
No.
Atlanta is the legacy of peaceful protests.
Right.
Like Birmingham actually has protests, barely getting nared. Some people are saying it's riots, but you don't hear about it being riots anywhere else. So it's not really.
You said
riots.
Birmingham?
Yeah, Birmingham, Alabama. Yeah. So,
Yeah, I know where Birmingham is.
Yeah, I don't know as much about Montgomery, but that's where Martin Luther King was born.
Right.
They moved up to Atlanta. So like that's like the legacy. It's like the trail from Alabama into Atlanta.
Yeah.
So, it's all sorts of fuck.
That's interesting.
But yeah, like essentially, Atlanta should be, because like, at what point did Atlanta become quote unquote a riot? When did the cops decide to act it? And if you look at Friday night footage, there's at least the joke that the cops shot the tear gas first, and then the wind blew the tear gas back in his face, and like literally somebody's like, yeah, even the wind says Black Lives Matter. Like, so, all right.
I am trying. I sent a couple of things to my friends. I'm trying to find them. Someone has created, and again, I'm trying to find it so I can give it to Zach. A list of demands that they want Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms to do and follow. And I'm trying to find this. And in the article, it encourages you to take their basic framework and word it in your own way,
Right.
and send it to her. So there is something that comes of this, that there is a clear plan that people want the city of Atlanta and Georgia and the rest of the country to do. I'm trying to find that, so give me just a second.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, I will post it up as best I can. Right now I have several of the donations rotating in chat. I'm having to manually do it. I don't have a moderator or auto mod. I kind of slapped it together last minute. So I'm just manually rolling the links over through chat, so you can see it in the bottom right-hand corner occasionally.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I will post it up as we are. We've lost Damien for a bit. He's taking a break. When he comes back live, we'll swap back over to him. Until then, we'll be rebroadcasting the Woke stream, because the Woke stream is also just broadcasting what they have. I'm sure they are perfectly fine with us rebroadcasting their broadcast. So,
Yeah.
I think they're perfectly a good channel. I think this one guy just got this from somebody, because I remember specifically, A, you see how they're crediting everybody. So you go to those channels, and then B, they said way earlier that there's no video on demand. That's it. They're not saving any of this video. And so, each channel can save their own video. It's not necessary to save the video on this channel, because as long as each channel saves its own video, then it's all going to be documented somewhere.
Yeah.
It's totally cool to
if there's a chat in, like, is there like a chat in the Discord I'm supposed to be looking at? 'Cause,
There's a chat in the Discord, and there's a chat in on Twitch. So if you depending on how you're looking at it, yeah.
All right, I'm not on Twitch, so.
That's fair. You don't have to be because you can see my screen share from Discord as you participate in this half of it.
Good.
To our viewers on Twitch, feel free to have fair civil discussions in the chat. And
Fair
we'll be
and civil.
Yeah. What's the Twitch tag, Zach?
Twitch is twitch.tv/Zach's Stream Room, ZACHSSTREAMROOM. So Zach's Stream Room is where we're at.
I got you. I'm gonna pull you up with my browser. Just to tell you, what I have to do to get internet is I have to go find a hotspot that works, connect to it, and then get back over to my apartment while it's still connected. And it still kind of works. It's so hilarious. And I like it that way until I finally have the ability to set up the internet back on my place. So I can't do
the stuff we did earlier, it ain't gonna be on there.
I can't do 18 because they suck. Long story.
You be watching? I got 2,000 right now.
I'm having a hard time finding this thing.
It's okay. We'll
I know I sent it to you, Zach.
I can probably pull it up. Did you send it to me on text or on Discord?
I don't remember.
Okay, I'll see if I can. Oh, actually, I see it right here. Sort of. This is a fundraising thing. This is the Action Network fundraising. Which seems relevant, so we will post this chat.
And a lot of them young, man.
Sure are you?
Right.
I'm 20 my damn self, and I'm not doing stuff out here.
That's what I can do from there.
I ain't get a Camaro because I'm out here.
I see it.
Yes. Right. Cool. You can see it that we're alive, Chris. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be able to really post.
We had a small handful of viewers for a minute and they dropped out. I'm sure they're bouncing around. That's how Twitch works. Anybody who joins us is fine. And this is recorded for posterity, so it can be reposted later.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
It makes me nervous.
It's what it is. Just be yourself.
Fine. Good look. Thanks, bro. I ain't got no
So yeah, so I see the top screen now.
You'll be out here tomorrow, right? Every day? Every day.
So like,
Yeah, they're next to the Coca-Cola building in
there's a lot to
Atlanta.
say. What's funny is like about 12 years after the fact, when like the 10 years, I guess, roughly. No, 12 years. The people that would end up being like the Tea Party people in Forensic, I happen chance knew them because everybody knew everybody. And they taught me all about this Pos Comitatus Act because they were going to use it in defense of whatever the hell they planned on doing to, I guess, stop Obama, right? The whole big thing being that like there's only so much the government's going to be able to do in terms of attacking essentially the populace, and they can still pull the Insurrection Act that they did in 1992 and the Rodney.
Yeah, but the Insurrection Act is supposed to be a very limited thing. What Trump is describing is very different from what the Insurrection Act does. Because the Insurrection Act, there is actually almost no legal precedent for martial law in the American system. Instead, the Insurrection Act works is that the police still have the power, or I'm sorry, the military has the powers of police, but you still have all of your civil rights. So if they make a wrongful arrest, you can sue the military for damages, and that happened in 92. You still get a fair trial. You still have to be detained. You still they are basically sworn in as local police and nothing more. Trump wants to use them as something different and illegal because he doesn't understand how it actually functions. I was talking
He doesn't understand how to hold the Bible up correctly. So.
Right. Yeah.
That was embarrassing.
He walks and talks like the guy from Men in Black, the alien that had was wearing a man suit. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he totally does that.
Yeah, there was a similar explanation I had my old banking and financing teacher taught me this odd one in regards to Alan Greenspan, who had just retired in 2008 or 2006 when I was in high school, and because Ben Bernanke, and then the world collapsed. So he's just like, if you listen to Alan Greenspan, who's somehow still alive, he very slowly makes his point with every word thought out, and that's, because his word was such a big deal because he was head of the Federal Reserve, that anything that he said could be misconstrued. And that might be the truest statement you could say of somebody,
This is the U.S.
except for when you realize the person is probably an idiot. And it's like the same story there. It's just like they're just digging for the next word. So it's like, is Alan Greenspan as smart as people thinks he is? Or is he really just a big fucking idiot that just happened to get all the money in the world? Because, I mean, you're seeing it right now. Just because you're rich doesn't mean anything about your intelligence.
That's,
So, I don't know.
yeah. Well, and that kind of goes to like this larger cultural discussion we're having about meritocracy. If you have wealth, if you have a good job, if you have X, Y, and Z, then you must be intelligent. You must have earned it, which, as we all know, is absolutely not the case. Dumb luck, money, opportunities, access to resources, all of those things contribute to being rich and contribute to what you have, materialistically what you have. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, no, like, to point out something I'm effectively guilty is that, like, once you have a certain amount in life, you're just going to be somewhat complacent about the reality by which you've obtained it, or even more so, by which the worst of the world sees you. And so, like, Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump are not ever gonna understand who they are to the rest of the world. Pretty much wants them dead. Like,
Do
not
they?
even thinking about America. No, like,
Oh, the
some
rest
rich
of the
people
world,
in the rest
not
of the world
America.
are
Yeah.
gonna use them. But yeah, just think about, like, if you're in freaking India right now and dealing with what's going on in India, and you know that Jared and Ivanka are just like, oh, this is so great whenever they go there. Like, you want them dead. And they don't know that. And they think that that's a threat. And it's like, it's not a threat, it's a reality. Like, a threat is somebody, essentially, I'm going to do this to you, and just to get you scared. No, people seriously want you dead. And that's a different story. They have no ability to achieve that. They know that, but they aren't in here just telling you that. And that's something they're not going to recognize because they live in comfort. They live in a world that already has raised them to think that they are glorious wonderkind, And, like, just in Americans in general, what's always been the controversial thing that I had to understand when I was younger, we've always been told how there's, like, a big anti-American, and, like, they just want all the Americans dead. Well, they don't really want all the Americans dead. They want us to fucking understand shit. And, we benefit the most out of their suffering.
Oh,
yeah. And so, like, we're obviously the biggest problem. Britain was previously the biggest problem. France is still kind of the biggest problem. Really, technically, Germany is kind of the biggest problem.
I mean,
But
that
they just own the banking system, so that's all of it.
yeah. I mean, first worlds cannot exist without third worlds
Yeah.
in developing. Yeah. And I don't think people realize that.
Well, they're taught not to realize that. I mean, our education system literally ignores the majority of the scenario. It was really weird retroactively thinking about all my, like, advanced English classes and what, Charles Dickens was really trying to say. Charles Dickens would be straight up like Bernie Sanders' best friend.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he would be right there with them. And we don't see that.
Yeah. Zach, how are you doing?
I'm doing good here. We have people who are in the chat. I'm interacting with them right now. We have We have followers in, coming in, and
Yeah, I see.
Damien
Blaze
is
Daddy and-
also prepping to go live again sometime soon. I think I'll swap over to him when he's back in. But no, you guys don't stop talking on my account. I'm just managing everything currently. I have a lot of things going on.
Yeah, no worries,
Hey,
no
guys.
worries.
Kinsley?
Yeah.
Kinsley, yeah.
Maybe. Tim.
All right, Damien is live again, so we're going to be swapping back over to
Awesome.
Damien. We're going to mute this one, go back over to Facebook. Going back over to Damien, live in Atlanta.
All right, so we're at like 12 or 13 minutes till. About 3 minutes before, we had a group of 10 start moving up. Kind of getting in position. They were at triple the amount of zip ties as possible.
Is he frozen?
And now they just moved forward.
We're good on my end. I don't know about
It's
everybody
frozen
else.
on the top. Yeah, on the
They growing shit.
There it is.
And now we
Okay.
got people throwing shit.
just a little delay. Oh, no, actually, this seems ahead a bit. I
Yeah.
don't know how that happened.
Shields forward.
All right, is everybody good? Can everyone see?
Yep, yep.
You see, the shields are degrading in quality, actually, if you look at them. They, if anything, you can tell the Secret Service shields in DC because they don't say police, it's the black bar.
We got guys from way over there throwing.
You know, it's gonna be really quick to be able to, like, slam down on.
Quit being a bunch of cunts!
They know they're making.
That's my man, Damien.
Very good.
Is that him with the
We're in
camera or
a
is that him with the
protest,
camera?
not to
That's
be
it. He's behind the
protest.
camera. He's got his own. He's got a cell
camera,
phone
yeah.
running. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright.
Like I said, these cops don't realize the rest of their lives is going to be killed.
Sorry,
They're
Matt.
trained to
You
not
good?
realize that, and that's it. They're just as complacent as any rich kid would be, you know? Like, they're not necessarily rich people, but they're taught to think that they gotta be really facts. They don't. I don't know if they realize that. That's what my parents realized when they were younger, is that,
Just like
as soon as
that.
you start talking about how bad the police system is on the inside,
Say what?
get shit on by the
Yep.
police. So,
Yeah, yep.
like, it's purely effectively a government.
That was
thing.
glass.
Look at
Oh.
the military.
Oh, easily.
But-
Well, I mean, you know, cops protect each other.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
granted, you could say that about a lot of businesses. I don't think that that's unique to them. But they protect each other. So when they commit crimes, they protect each other. Oh, my dog just left. But yeah, I know. He's
That was the fireworks some asshole dropped.
whatever. And I think something to strive for. Is that music?
That's someone's phone is ringing. Yeah, it must be it. Chris, that you? Whose is that? Hold on.
Not mine.
Yeah, was that you? Oh, that was Damien.
Oh, God.
Uh-huh.
It's time to wake up,
But
Damien.
yeah,
Okay, good. So, that guy on the wing there, he's actually giving
set
that
the
press
alarm
guy
for 9
directions.
o'clock.
No, back it up.
so is a curfew about to set in 10 minutes?
Yes,
Or 9
in 10
minutes?
in 9 minutes will be curfew time in Atlanta.
Alright.
So I just want to finish my point I was trying to make really quickly. I think something that would be really great to see moving forward is for police to not protect each other when one of them commits a crime. They need to hold each other accountable. As well as I don't know how the chain of command works, but their higher in command needs to hold each other accountable, as well as just the everyday foot cop need to hold each other accountable moving forward.
There is a good amount of them that would actually report wrongdoing, but there's also just like, I mean, this legacy goes back to the pre-Civil War era. Like,
Yeah.
You know, and so like it's literally, there are years upon years of effective blackmail they can hold against them. So after like 10 years of you being on the force and you see
Promise,
some
I need to
bad
not
shit
be here.
happening,
Here's why.
you're like, this is bad. They're gonna be like,
Because
remember
those
what you did
guys-
5 years ago?
I've been there for
And
half
so
an
that's
hour at
essentially
least.
something that happened.
Is that what happened with your dad?
No. I mean, it's just that at some point, like,
Okay, we got
he
second echelon
had-
moving up, reinforce the
Well,
front.
all right. So, one story
Excuse me,
you know
second
is
line.
that he had taken part on.
Oh my God, that guy is
one
like
guy apparently
4.5
had assaulted a
feet.
cop, and they responded. Like everybody responded immediately, and they showed up and they beat the guy up because like the guy looked like he was assaulting the cop. Well, after the fact, it turned out that cop was full of shit in multiple ways, including like he would have
See,
used the
these
canine
guys got
dog.
it because they know that if you start,
And so that guy
forward,
never
they're
got
gonna
in trouble.
they're gonna get
and,
upset.
my
Now they're
dad
starting
was
to
a
move
canine
back.
officer by then had reported that, and they're like, remember back when?
All right,
And so
shit,
like
I
that's
need to actually.
you
much
were
as I
there,
love this shot,
even if you were not really the person
I am not
that
gonna get
caused
caught in
it,
a
you were
pencil.
there, and you let it happen. Well, all these cops are here, and they're letting it
I got
happen.
2 ways out. I should be good.
So now they're in it together, even if they know they
Right.
don't want to be there.
Right.
And so that's it. It's the same thing as Trump voters. A lot of Trump voters are still supporting him merely on the fact that they voted for him, and they don't want to admit the fact that they're wrong. So,
Do you think that?
I mean, yeah, I mean,
I think
they
people who are
tie it
still
to their
voting-
Like,
ego.
I'm about to make a bad
Well,
life
yeah, but
choice.
people tie
Still
anything
being
to
here.
their ego. You'll tie like any political ideology. That's like the big problem. Like, I support Bernie, but I can't tie him to my
So
ego.
you can straight up see.
If Bernie did
from
something
the
wrong,
amount
I have to let him go.
of projectiles
You know,
being
and
thrown,
you know,
rather
if
the
Joe
relative lack
Biden
of
did
them,
something wrong, I have to let him
literally,
go.
it's not that many people.
Well,
It's
clearly people are
what,
going to follow them,
maybe 10.
you know,
Yeah.
Right now,
and
most of them
even
are gone.
through the thick and
Or they
thin.
got
And
shut
like,
the
it's
fuck
one
up
thing to
real
say,
hard.
thick and thin.
So that's what it
'cause,
is.
You know, whatever, blood's thinner than water or whatever.
That guy right there, though,
But yeah, like,
And everyone just froze. Okay.
he's got a real anxious stance.
What'd you say?
Nervous.
You froze a little bit there.
Me?
He's
oh,
real nervous.
No,
yeah, it's
Chris.
just-
I mean, both of y'all, but
We got another guy over there.
it's just my general problem with like
on the corner,
any particular
right behind the
ideology,
actual corner
like
man.
even
He's alert,
ideologies
but he
that
ain't
I would
nervous.
support
He's
effectively.
smooth, he's calm, but
Like
he's
I
on
know
his
that I
game.
can't internalize them. Because if I do, I become part of them, and it can be held against me to continue to be part of them. You know, it's one thing
Yeah.
to be held against me that I was there by an outside ideology that's attacking them. It's another thing to be held by it by itself. You know, and that's
Right.
the mechanism of the Republican Party, and that's the mechanism of the DNC as opposed to the people that are in the Democratic Party because they can't be anywhere else. You know, we have no other option.
After the fucking firework went off.
So,
oh Lord, they about to
The
whip
same
my
thing works in
fucking
any
ass.
sort of fraternal organization,
Oh,
any sort of. I don't
That
know,
is not
just any
right.
sort of-
oh, there's Damien. Hey. Probably can't see us.
Hey, sweetie. Bye.
oh, fuck it. It's 5 till. We turn this goddamn hat around.
I feel like he's saying something. I can't hear him.
Fucking eyes.
I could turn him up.
His eyes are burning.
I think we should probably go ahead and take this opportunity to thank both Damien and everyone down there protesting right now.
Absolutely.
I know, I personally can't. I live with high-risk people, or people who have high risk for COVID, and I don't want to infect anybody. And I know a lot of us are kind of in a similar boat with COVID and other kind of health issues. So people who are risking it to be down there,
Alright,
definitely
so-
appreciate you. Definitely think what you're doing is important.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for watching the stream. Be
Yeah,
safe
thank you.
wherever you are.
Yeah, for real. Be safe.
You can't really continue to move.
All right, Chris, your mic volume's dropping.
This is a weird mic.
Yeah, you might have to readjust a bit. You were coming in kind of okay there for a second. So.
Oh, shit.
We're 3 minutes away from curfew in Atlanta, Georgia.
Ugh.
To Damien's rear
At
is
3
the
minutes
National
till,
Guard.
I'm actually wondering. I'm
He's
actually
looking
wondering because
right
we've got
on
like
this
11
guy with the
alive
microphone.
right here. dead in their
Yeah.
path, slightly off. I wonder if that's on purpose.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
'cause
they could easily egress out, but at the same time, it acts as a visual diffuser and deterrent. I wonder if that's on purpose. It does have a really good shot
Yeah.
form too, when you think about it.
yeah.
Did you see how the Secret Service punched?
This is what we're looking at, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, I've there's 120 something.
That's insane.
Yeah, there's 120 something press violations that
Now,
have happened. I
regardless
have
of anything
posted
it
on my
said, I didn't hear
Facebook.
to come start no shit. I left all my tanks and my planes at home.
I mean, that was particularly visceral to me to watch that
Seriously.
footage because they punched the camera.
I came with my car
Yeah.
keys
And so,
and my
like,
wallet,
it's
my
literally
phone,
a first-person shooting
and my cane.
vision of getting punched by
Because
a
my
Secret
shit is
Service
fucking
member.
hurting.
And I immediately,
Wish
like,
I had
I
my
had to
fucking
get out of
walker.
my
I couldn't
chair
find
and
it. God, my
walk
back is
away
killing me.
because
I need to
was
take some pressure out of it.
like lose my mind. If
Well,
I,
and
like,
that's-
ever experienced that. That's
All
a
right.
problem with me and my
Where are
mom
we
and
at?
pretty much
2
anybody on my
minutes
mom's
till-
side of the family. is
At
that we
2
have
minutes
that
till,
visceral
and now they're
reaction
hemming
to
up
any sort of
closer. Well,
violence
if
and,
some people are gonna be dumb, I
the
might as well
violence
fucking
in
do it, too.
response. That's
Let's not
part
lie.
of my problem.
And I mean,
I got a feeling I'm
if
about to get
anybody
fucking pepper sprayed.
questions whether or not this is about suppression of the
there's a
people,
fine line between
suppression of their
pepper spray, mace,
voices,
and a bullet in my
the
ass.
fact that they are
I'm praying.
arresting and doing what you guys just said they did to the
Just
Australian
remember,
reporter, the fact that
might be
they're doing
big,
that
might
to
be grumpy.
reporters
I'm
proves
not so
this
big
is
and not so
about
grumpy that I can't
suppression.
hit flat on the ground.
Like, if nothing
full
else
field
has
and
proven
cover my
that, it
balls
is
in my
that
mouth.
fact alone that should cement it in people's minds that that is what's going on.
So, over the past like 20 years, you know,
better notice that I
literally
joke when I get nervous.
2001, going on through, we've had this interesting evolution of what's happening most of the past 20 years.
Chris, I'm losing you.
No, I quiet it down instead of speaking through the top. The media's reaction to protest has
Okay, see, he actually
obviously
pointed out. He
changed
actually
as of
pointed out
now.
that it is 8:59. So yeah, someone back to fuck up, and I'm gonna
There
see if I
were-
can pimp walk, cripple walk my ass ahead of this line.
All right, Chris, I didn't hear any of that.
Because I damn sure can't make it
I'm
back
right
to my
here.
fucking car.
Can you hear me still?
Like seriously, I actually
I
don't know
can.
how
Okay, I
I'm
can
gonna
hear
get
you
back
now.
to
There
my
was-
car. It was.
All right,
I almost
Damien's
passed
saying
out twice
something.
getting here, and that was 3/4 downhill.
Oh gosh. For all of us Dragon Con fans, we know how
Oh, fuck.
steep those hills can be. I think that's what Damien was talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
9 o'clock. Oh. See, I'm lucky.
All right, it's officially
Oh,
9
My
o'clock.
infirmity gives me the conviction of my principles, because I might have pussied out and started running back before this. I'm too damn. Minute nothing. It's 9, son. Here it goes. All right. Time to bail.
People are running. Are they advancing? I'm assuming so. If
Yeah.
people are running.
They are. Well, they're admittedly advancing slowly at the
God, I need
moment.
to get
Yeah.
out of here.
Sometimes
I'm
the
not
cops break
being
out
dumb. Being stupid. Oh, God damn it. This shit is
All right, hope Damien's safe.
firework. We got tear gas.
Oh, Damien,
Fuck
you
this.
get out of there.
I'm doing another. Ah, gee.
What was that?
I don't
I'm doing
know.
another shoulder shot.
Tear
Fuck
gas.
that
No.
noise. This is actually no bueno. Can't cut there, I can't cut there, I gotta move there. Because I got cops over here. Oh, National Guard. Come on, come on.
So it looks like police are pushing people out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's tear gas all over.
All right. Oh, yeah, that's that shit, son. Ah, brings back memories. Wait a minute. That's all that is? Ah, there's the sting. Ah, say, that reminded me of good old Experiments in my lab with
Accident
chemistry.
reversed.
But there's the tingle. I noticed though, now by the way, props to these guys if they don't shoot me in the ass. They're proceeding at a deliberate mosey. They don't run people down, they aren't running them over. Woo.
Yeah, it's like they have learned something in the past. Not hurting people.
Here's my compromised respiratory system.
Right now.
I got it. Shit, I may have just walked my ass into a pin.
Okay, screaming.
Here we go. Yep. That's a dead end. I got no choice but to walk this way. I'm about to probably get lit the fuck up.
Oh gosh.
I got my hands up and I'm pointing to the right. Because there ain't no fucking way I can make it through that horse shit and get back to my car. I'm about to get pepper sprayed or fucking bald. Oh, this sucks dick. I love that smell in the fucking morning. Ah, yeah. Yeah. Can't see. Can't breathe. Yeah. Oh, crap. Well, I'm fucked. You boys want to arrest me so I can get home, please? My car's the way fuck over there. I can't make it.
So, you know,
Oh
around
boy.
2004 or so,
I can barely see.
there was the anti-Bush
And I can't
protest
make it
in
to
New
my
York.
car. You guys want to arrest me or let me through? Please take the pic.
Is he talking to cops right now? I
you
think
see
he
me
is.
Yeah, he's literally
Can you let me
talking.
through or arrest me
He
and take me
can't
home?
find his way out.
Thank you.
That's
I'm going to jail
National
tonight,
Guard.
probably.
Okay, they're helping him.
Gotta
That's
keep moving once
good.
you got his box in. Thank you. How you doing, sir? Can't make it back to my car. Oh, bad heart, bad knees. That's why I couldn't. I realized I fucked up too long ago to make it back. I might as well watch the show get lit up. Thank you, boss.
Hey Zach, are you in contact with him right now?
No, he cannot. He does not have
Turn
access
this
to
shit
his
off,
phone
you're
right
in
now.
good hands.
Okay.
Fuck it. Thanks, boss.
There's no way I can talk to him at this moment.
I'm worried he's about to collapse based on what he's saying. Or what I can hear him saying. Like.
Like, he volunteered.
Yeah, let me turn it off.
Okay, so he's now been
turn off the
arrested.
camera.
The zip ties, that was what we just heard. So Damien was just
Turned
arrested.
off. All right.
We're going to swap back
Yeah.
over to the other stream.
And he did say to them that he could not walk well or breathe well, right?
Right,
Or has a
yes.
bad heart?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So they did
That's-
treat him humanely, and I just want
That's
to...
good.
I want to remind everybody, if anyone's upset that he just got zip tied, it is standard operating procedure for SWAT or riot police if they have to move someone, even if they do not press charges, to temporarily restrain them in case something bad happens. Even if you were like a hostage, they would actually still restrain you. So him being zip tied is not necessarily indicative of him being arrested for anything. Yet. We don't know that, but it's entirely
Okay.
possible. Yeah. Like,
Okay.
like if they're rendering him medical aid right now, they would still zip tie him. That's actually part of the procedure. Most people don't know that.
I did not know that either. Okay.
Well,
Fair enough.
he did a good job of that.
Yeah, he did.
Also,
He was also,
it
I
is a
mean,
little-
I'm really happy. I'm really happy with how they treated him. But he was just one person.
Right.
Yeah.
If it was a group of people, or if, he is a white person, if it was something else, he might not have been treated the same.
The initial area, the initial issue right there, though, was that they blocked off the egress out of the zone.
Right.
That was where he was already planning on going. He realized that he couldn't go back.
Yeah.
And as much as you heard people in the stream, they were getting blocked off. So I don't know what that accounts for, if they intended to block people off or if they just had a failure of, sensible placement of the National Guard. But that was National Guard.
Yeah.
With cops behind
Both
it.
are entirely
It's really
possible.
awkward.
Down that street is a parking garage, which is a kind of a bizarre place because I would assume if they were, and this is actually my major criticism of police during this entire thing, if the police were actually sent to protect businesses from looting, they would position themselves differently. Instead, they're doing things like kettling people in. I've currently swapped back over to Woke Stream on the right middle pane. You can see a top-down view of what's going on. And like I'm describing, they're actually set in to box people in, and they're not necessarily defending businesses. This isn't meant to obtain the maximum number of arrests. And one of the major criticisms of the protest is that one of the major criticisms is that looting is happening, but the police are doing nothing about it. It's mostly other protesters doing what little they, what as much as they can, which isn't a lot, to protect businesses. So the police are not there, not positioned, even if the individual officers don't want to do this, they're positioned for maximum antagonization and maximum arresting of peaceful protesters. They're not dealing with the looting problem. Which they're almost intentionally placed to not deal with looting. It's incredibly frustrating to watch. But Damien should have had an exit out of there to the side parking lot had they been sensible. But hopefully he was treated well. And I agree with you. Set our homeboy free in the chat. I absolutely agree with you. I'm gonna post some in case he is arrested. I'm gonna post the donations again.
Yeah. I also, Zach, on Discord, I sent you, I believe, the Atlanta letter to Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, the list of demands. So.
Yes,
yeah,
I'll post this. I'll post all of those in the chat too. These URLs are all for donating for various causes. I believe Act Blue is the one for people who people who've been arrested to post bail. Yeah. Give me a minute to get the rest of them. The Atlanta Solidarity Fund. Let me grab that. That in here. And also have the email for to email the mayor.
So yeah,
those URLs will be in chat. The VOD for this, you'll be able to go through the chat, and links are clickable for those of you who can only watch. I know it might be a bit frustrating because some of the URLs are short and some of them are kind of long. You can go through the chat history and click through them and donation link if you that way.
It's almost a little ironic, but the letter to Keisha Lance Bottoms is it's on MailChimp.
That's funny.
It's not ironic at all, but yeah.
MailChimp is for those of you who don't know, is a Atlanta-based mass mailer marketing company. They're like a large tech firm here. Huge deal. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm curious to know what's happening in the I think it's South Carolina. Oh, Columbia. Is it Columbia? Columbus. Sorry, Columbus, Ohio. It looks like the police, possibly police chief, is confronting protesters. I'm curious to know if what's going on there. What's gonna
unmute.
I was pepper sprayed for doing. Nobody was doing anything.
Well, I can't explain the other people.
Well, I mean, hey, they're having a discussion that's civil and that is healthy.
Yeah. I'm wondering if they civil is what I'm wondering.
I mean,
Last
so,
night they were kneeling with the cops on the line in Columbus.
We're just staying here.
At the
real
same
quick, 'cause I
time, the
wanna see
person that was
what-
streaming
what
last
this
night
man
got
has to
like
say.
literally shoved it in Atlanta. And so, I mean, but she was behind the line, but she told him she had a press pass. Shoved her over. So, I don't know. Stormy feed is really quiet, but the 11 Live YouTube feed is a helicopter of the cop himself.
Mm.
It is also interesting to note that the DC feed is still quite active, and
That's not surprising.
well, yeah, well, at the same time, yeah, like supposedly they're 2-3
John
7,
Smith, your name is
right?
John Smith.
And so, like, for as much shit talking as Trump's doing right now about how all the states are being weak about it, clearly DC is not under control, and so thereby he's, of course he's, but yeah. And the Hollywood feed can do without like a moment.
okay, guys, we are about to have someone else join our chat. I'm gonna add Art into our discussion. Give me 2 seconds to do that. Wait, he's not online yet. I'll give it a second.
Where's everybody else? Are they all back
Alright.
at the State House?
I think I just accidentally showed everybody's faces. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah, that's
We're
okay.
gonna go find the other group.
Yeah,
This guy's
I mean-
obviously
Are
not
you-
gonna
are-
give us an
are you
answer.
with us,
He's not
Ray?
gonna answer anything.
Asked him what he did for
Yeah, she's
what
back.
he wants to do for
She's
college.
back? I
Just
can't
so
hear
now we
her.
can go through every niece, nephew, daughter,
Yeah, you're
cousin
mute,
he's
Ray.
got and what they're doing. He just wants to talk about himself.
How about now?
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Can I ask you one more question?
I accidentally
sir?
muted myself. Sorry.
Can I ask you one more question?
Give me a second to see if I can add him.
So, when you were shooting, when your officers
Yes.
were shooting wood rounds
Oops.
out of full-size rifles,
No.
can you explain how wood is non-lethal?
You're okay.
Because if that hits
Not
you in
bad.
multiple places,
I mean,
in your
are you okay
head
with
and your
occasionally
neck,
having
you
your
will
face on a
die.
Twitch stream for a
Yeah.
second? Right.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I actually already thought we had our faces on here,
They
so.
shot it directly at. Yeah, I have that video, sir. I have video. I want to know.
I put on this pale pink lip gloss to be on Twitch, so I am good.
You're solid. Come on, Art, pick up the.
Oh, you're ringing.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah. Art, you with us?
Hey, I'm here. I'm so sorry. I was just having some technical difficulties.
All right, he's obviously
All
not
right,
gonna
welcome
answer
to the
any of our
stream. This is
questions.
Art, everybody.
Hi, Art.
Hi, guys.
You have a beautiful face and a wonderful
It's on Facebook
smile.
Live. You've been on the whole time, sir.
Thank you. And I've been working on my complexion.
Nice.
Do you guys want camera? I don't know if I want to
No,
go.
no. Most of the people, unless I swap back and forth, are just going to see the feed that I'm showing. So you don't need camera if that's going to cause any sort of technical problems.
I have video of you shooting them
I'm
directly
managing a
at
bunch
me,
of things,
sir.
so I'll be, you know, I won't be discussing as much as you guys. So, you know,
Don't worry,
talk.
Well, I think Art left.
Did it say Art?
All right, guys,
He
we're not gonna
left?
get a
There he
direct
is.
answer.
He's back.
Yeah.
We're not gonna get a direct
The first
answer.
time, like, I
We're gonna go
literally
find the
just
rest of the
first
crowd, 'cause
started
obviously they're not
Discording
interested in
again
answering.
last night, and I was having those
So,
problems at first.
it's fine.
So somebody's and so I had to go and find everything and set everything up. So when you asked me to join today, I was like, oh, I just set everything up. So hey, I know this
You
now.
heard it here.
Yeah.
We're gonna go
Old
find the
Discord
rest of the
is
group.
much different, but I mean, it still works.
Yeah,
same.
everybody who's on here the other day watched
Okay,
me.
yeah,
it's running
better now.
Yeah, cool.
Oh, there he is. Does anyone in chat have any questions we can discuss?
Straight.
Yeah,
Zach?
yeah. Well, if anybody, and they can hear you. If anybody in chat wants to ask any questions,
If he wants
feel
to call
free
me
to
a liar,
post them
that's fine,
in,
but I
and
have
we'll
a
address them
video
when we
of
get them.
his.
Just so
I
you
don't
know,
really give a
Ray, Twitch chat is heavily delayed.
We're gonna go back into
So
the group.
it,
Gotcha.
like it might be minutes before I forget anything, and not to scare anybody off, I know this from
I saw that
streaming
comment
for
earlier.
a
Hi,
while.
it's nice to meet you. We're gonna
People
base you
on
in
Twitch
45
like to
minutes. That
watch,
was
but they
pretty
don't always like to be active in chat.
You know what? That was always me in school.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
That officer was such
I
a
get
bitch.
you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Been there.
So you know
You could
that's
just
that's
tell
the
when
way
he
that
was
it works.
smiling, it was
But yeah, Arturo, what do you think of the situation so far? Damien just got arrested. We had him live. He was our man downtown, and he voluntarily surrendered himself to the National Guard because he couldn't make it. They cut him off from his car.
Wow. I think it's insane.
Yeah.
And the way the police retaliation has escalated is
We're gonna go back to the state.
terrifying and mind-boggling. And I'm worried about Damien. I came on just as you messaged me that he had been arrested, and I'm very surprised.
That was really.
What was the last thing that you saw before he cut his camera?
He stayed until the curfew point. He was getting really good video of the skirmish line between protesters and the police and the National Guard. The National Guard flanked him, and people began to leave as the police pushed forward and tear gas was deployed. And then he ran into the National Guard, effectively kettling them in the opposite direction. We heard other protesters run past him, saying they were being cut off from their escape point.
Okay.
He wasn't able to get to his car, so he voluntarily.
Yeah, he didn't want to get abused and violenced.
Yeah.
To give them the bit of credit, they did handle him gently. Like,
yes.
They didn't
Yeah.
hassle him, and it's interesting in that where he was, the National Guard was the front line, and you could only see the cops after he got like 20 feet behind them, the Black Panther. So like,
interesting.
Where he started, the cops were the front line with their clear shields from, oppression corps. Whoever's making, they're driving me nuts because they're like branded shields at this point. But then he left that area, which was Centennial, walked a couple blocks, turned the corner, walked a couple blocks, and people started screaming how they were blocked off. And yeah, they're right. There was literally no other way out. It was National Guard. So like, was there a miscommunication or something? I hope not, because that would mean how disorganized the cops are at handling the protest in and of themselves, which is their problem. But then, even more so, why did they do that? And Zach pointed out that that's been a consistent issue, cordoning off the protesters. They're not actually allowing them to.
Yeah, no, that's actually. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, go ahead.
No, that it's actually like kind of defeats the purpose of establishing a curfew if you're just going to say, okay, whoever's out here, we're just going to corner you and not let you leave. It's like you're almost forcing them to get arrested for breaking it. Again, forcing hands the same way that the suspected, I'm sure maybe confirmed in some cases, moles have been instigating violence to almost escalate things and give them an excuse to start to retaliate.
Yeah.
So
what's amazing,
maybe that's a softer version of that, Yeah.
What's amazing is the stupidity of the moles, because they're putting their plans in media.
Yeah.
Surprisingly,
no, I've
hot.
seen them. They're not very. They're not very inconspicuous. Wow. Man. What's going to happen with Damien? Jesus.
Yeah. I'm
sorry. Go ahead, Ray.
I am trying to. I just saw something. June 6th. There's going to be an Atlanta protest for justice, and I'm trying to find the information about that, so I can give everyone who's watching a bit of a better details on that. Does anyone mind if I invite my friend Mark with us?
Absolutely.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let me figure out how Discord works and how to add him. Just kidding. We literally just did this. Hold on.
Yeah.
All right, JD Everhart just posted, as long as they aren't blocking people off before the curfew time, I have no issue with it. Curfew time is not the time to start leaving. It's when you should already be gone. Oh, I'm getting called for some reason, even though I'm already in the call. There we go. Okay, cool.
All right. This is Mark. This is my friend Mark, everybody. This is Mark.
Hello.
Hello, beautiful pair of eyes.
I'm sorry, Zach. What were you saying?
So JD Everhart just posted that as long as you weren't blocking people off before the curfew time, I have no issue with it. Curfew time is not the time to start leaving. It's when people should already be gone. My argument against that is, and actually this is not how curfews typically work in any other situation. Curfews actually typically, like are typically there's a are you leaving now? Curfews are not like a
Right.
hard arrest point. In fact, it's from a constitutionality standpoint, the arrests that are made for breaking curfew will not hold merit if anybody can make any kind of argument that they were leaving, which they were. So the purpose of the detainment is moot, and that's actually where like a lot of lawsuit damages for cities come from during these protests, is that they set a curfew time, and they if they overzealously arrest people who are not intentionally breaking or interfering with curfew, it's it's kind of on the onus of the police in the state.
Yeah.
And JD Everhart just
at some
responded,
level-
"Yes, the arrests are still are still stupid when people are leaving."
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Generally, at some level, it's also sort of an added-on charge whenever they can find something else to charge you. So, like, if you were caught with drugs and then you scuffled the cop, they add on assault. So, if you're caught with drugs after curfew, they add curfew. It's nobody's ever prosecuted for curfew, with the exception of they're intentionally violating curfew. And at that point, it's effectively a waste of court, because you're not really even gonna get jail time. You're just gonna get like money, and so curfew's only enforced these situations. I mean, of course, coronavirus was its own curfew scenario, but I don't think anybody really got charged for coronavirus. So.
I didn't see anybody in Georgia getting, and I could be wrong about that, but from my understanding, no one got arrested in Georgia for violating coronavirus curfew. And there's my dog, so I'll be right back.
I mean, they probably were at some point arrested, but never anybody reported. Oh,
All right, guys, this is Boomer.
We have a dog on the street.
See.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's a
I
mix.
feel like the people of Twitch should see him.
I could swap over to that very quickly. Just there we go. You can show off your dog now.
Yeah.
Boomer. It's Boomer. Okay. It's enough dog. He doesn't. There you go. He's camera shy. Oh my good boy. Okay.
So when he begs for food, do you tell him, "Okay, Boomer"?
I do. I say "Okay, Boomer" a lot, and everyone thinks that's hilarious.
I mean, unintentionally situational.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Here.
Where's this video feed coming from?
This is also Twitch. This is from a channel called Woke, which is also a collection of other streams that are going on. Mark, you missed it, but earlier we were streaming. I had my roommate and friend Damien was on the ground, and he was streaming for us, and I was restreaming his stream on Twitch while we were discussing the situation. He was just detained as we watched. So we're trying to get him support, and if I'm more quiet than normal as a host, it's because I'm also organizing his situation and managing the stream. So you guys might have to carry the bulk of the discussion while I manage things.
Okay.
Art, you still with us?
I'm still
here.
Okay, cool. Mark, you with us? Okay, make sure everyone's still connected.
It's interesting. Whatever's happening in Los Angeles is a little odd. There's a lot of
What's
cars
happening,
amongst the crowd. I mean, on the left center. Oh, it's a little blocked right now, but there's a lot of cars in the crowd, and a few of them are literally covered in adverts. Well, now on the top left is a car, but in the regular Hollywood stream, it's just almost all people. But then all over Los Angeles, either the roads are still technically open and people ended up finding themselves in the crowd, or the crowd overtook them, or there's some really awkward effect of people just driving into the crowd, joining them or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I wondered for a second, because one of them was plastered in advertisement, and I'm like, are you trying to advertise?
Yeah. No, you can see it right there in the back.
Yeah. The curator of Woke adds a lot of stuff. They also they tend to block off the expensive cars. They tend to just the expensive cars just also well, you're not going in, rich person, so.
do all of these cities that we're watching right now have? I'm assuming they have curfews.
Yes. So most cities in the U.S. have curfews that have been enacted at various times. It's up to the city what that is and what that looks like. Atlanta, Georgia, has been enforcing their curfew way more strictly than almost any other city. Even Washington, D.C., in which protesters have been pushing up to the front lawn, has in some ways not been as strict as Atlanta has been.
Yeah, that's another thing. Because DC is at 7, Atlanta's at 9, and then DC is not, like, they know that they already screwed up, effectively. I don't know what's going on. Like I said, there's nothing to lose in letting the protest happen in Atlanta. You know, like, if people go nuts in Atlanta, it's not really the biggest deal city in America.
Yeah.
I know that, having moved here for my own personal reasons, you know, like, whereas if people go nuts in DC, that's gonna be fun. And so, yeah, I don't, other than imbecile in chief, you know, trying to push his narrative and realizing that he can't because even the cops, the National Guard, are not going to follow along. Like, the Secret Service already screwed themselves. And it's going to be really interesting because, like, there's a whole line of Secret Service guards that stood at attention, let dipshit walk on through. And so there's just pictures where their masks off and their shields up so they can, you know, stand at attention for the president of all these faces. Normally in the Secret Service, at least covered by sunglasses or something, but not this time. And what the fuck was going through their mind as they realized that they just shit out of a lot of people to let fuckface go take a picture at a church? You know, I really, like, that's just, I don't know, it drives me nuts. I guess I spend a lot of time wondering why people make their decision. You know, because, like, if you're a 20-something-year-old, you know, whomever, and you're in the middle of the protest and somebody arrests you and you're on camera, the rest of your life you have a story of saying how you got arrested at a protest in 220, you know, and then fucking, if you're literally any one of the guards or any, you have effectively a lot of explaining to do for when you turn it out to be punching Australian reporter, shoving over, you know.
Well, I think there's this narrative that I think a lot of people believe, which is they were just doing their job. I'm not saying I think that or I agree with that, but I think a lot of people have that mentality. And I think that's a big problem. I think that's a big problem with a lot of this.
That's enforced in public and private industry. Definitely in private industry. I mean, like,
okay.
Oh yeah,
guys, I'll be walking out of the stream for a minute. Sorry to interrupt. I have to take this phone call. You guys keep it going.
Okay.
All right. Way earlier, when he was still walking around, when they're
custom image, or you can add text.
So, like,
widgets too.
Something I've noticed over the last 20 years is that the narrative of how the news watches protests. And, you know, obviously in the 1960s, they were like, what are these black people doing now? You know, and in retrospect, they learned how bad that was. But throughout the Bush and in through the Obama era, there was a lot of, like, look at these people causing riots, you know? And, like, you see they're trying to, like, push that narrative so hard right now, but they just can't. Because the reality is overwhelming them. But, like, you know, there are obviously looting going on, but they can't say that everything is 1992 LA all over. And they can't say, you know, they ignored the anti-Iraq war protests carried out, or anti-Bush re-election protests carried out by Iraq war veterans in New York City, which there's a really good documentary from back then called The F Word, because it was hosted by, it was put together, not even a documentary, it was just a one single live feed from a local New York radio station DJ who quit his job because he said the F word once and the FCC busted down on him. So on his last day, he walked around New York City amidst the protests and interviewed anybody, including counter-protesters, including, you know, multiple veterans of the Iraq War, including Green Party guys. There was an interesting argument about Green Party, and that was 2004. And so, like, that was the best coverage ever of that entire event. Everybody else in the news was just like, oh, there's protests in New York City. You know, what next? The gays want to get married? So, like, that was 2004 Bush era. Not long later, Libya, Beirut got bombed by a certain country, and
okay, everybody, is everything still functioning?
Yes.
Yep.
Everybody good? All right, good. Keep going, because some of the support for Damien just showed up at the door spontaneously, so I am now managing that. You guys keep going, okay?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to. Everyone's gonna see everybody for a second because I have to mute myself. So mute myself.
Am I gonna get? It's gonna seem.
Yeah. Mark did leave. His Discord was acting up, and I guess Art left as well. And I think we have a history of covering, especially in the late. I don't know about the 90s. I was born in the 90s, so I can't speak to the 90s. But in the 2000s, we have a history of intentionally covering protests in a negative way that is disingenuous.
We are on East.
And I think this movement is just the straw that broke the camel's back was George Floyd. And I think media now knows, at least, you know, maybe not Fox, I don't watch Fox, but I think the rest of the media knows there's no way they can cover this protest and not be somewhat truthful. I mean, yeah, they're talking about the protesters rioting, and we know a lot of those people are undercover cops. We know a lot of those people, you know, the majority of protesters aren't doing that. We've all heard the Dr. Martin Luther King quote being passed around lately about why people riot. We understand that being seen as a human being is more important than protecting and talking about protecting the rights of businesses and small businesses and big businesses. You know, if people aren't respected as human beings, why should we respect their other people's businesses? That just, you know, obviously doesn't add up. So I think, like you were saying, that narrative the media is trying to push with the rioting is failing, because that can only go so far. You have to cover why people are protesting to begin with. And I think the majority of America sniffs the BS now. We know what's going on in mainstream news. I think we get it. We know they're telling a narrative that fits what they want us to believe.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's all been organized like that for the longest time.
Yeah.
There are departments in the American government, just as much as any other, of information control. And, I mean, at some level, you can at least say that in America, in order to respect the First Amendment, they can't sit here and demand that said media state certain things, but they're still going to push the narrative through said media. And actually, you know, the last few years have been a big test of that, obviously. There's been a big notion of a lot of the supposedly left, which aren't really left, media tends to, like, you know, when they do, like, they bring in a climate change denier online like clearly the only reason they're bringing them in is because they're being paid to bring them in, and the person doesn't have any real valid statements in the face of, you know, even Bill Nye. You know, like you could literally get a kid from elementary school and outpace them, you know. But yeah, and so, like, that's just always been the kind of approach. And as you were saying earlier, you know, it's just as much private business as it is any public business. It's, you know, when people have money to make, they're gonna do what they can to make that money. And if they can get that money from the government, then they're gonna do what they can to please the government. And if they're gonna get special one of the lifetime interviews with Donald Trump, they're gonna play along
Oh yeah.
with whatever,
Oh, yeah.
and like they'll even play along with the controversy. They will. I mean, he's Mr. Tabloid. They will sit here. They'll talk shit about him in the manner that works for him to be able to respond. And so instead of just like actively talking about how he's playing them, they're just playing along because they make more money. And so what a lot of the mainstream people assume is the leftist media, which is not leftist at all, you know, the easy tell is when they're just like, they bite onto a story, but they don't actually follow up. And so that's what you're seeing when general protests. They bite onto it. Look at all these rioters, flash in the pan. Everybody forgets about it. Everybody forgets about the like Bush era creation of the ICE protest. You know, like when they like that was huge in 2000. You know, everybody forgets. Actually, it would have been more earlier than that, but everybody forgets about the bombing of Beirut. That's like the super frustrating one to me, because I was sitting down, like I was at a restaurant eating crab stew because that's my love, and it was on CNN. It was on the pre-MSNBC or whatever. I guess it was around then. You know, it was there. Beirut was being bombed because there were some terrorists in Beirut, but they had no control over Beirut. They were just there, so they were being bombed.
I'm okay, guys.
And there was a huge big deal. Anthony Bourdain was there. He was trying to film an episode about food in Beirut, and him and 500 other Americans pretty much almost died from it. Like, they got rescued by an American naval ship that was on the Gulf only after the Lebanese government got them to a place where they're safe. And if you watch the episode of No Reservations, Beirut, Lebanon, there's nothing about food. It's entirely about trying to get the hell out of a war zone. And that's the only coverage you'll see these days, because the same exact day was the day that supposedly a kid inflated his own hot air balloon in a backyard and traveled across the country. And it turned out to be a hoax.
They're fucking with that bus.
The internet historian
so
has
literally
handles
every
that
news
well.
channel switched to that.
No.
Yeah, every news channel switched to the kid in the hot air balloon, and not the bombing in Lebanon.
Right.
And so, like, it's not even a protest story there. It's just that's how the game goes. You know, when you realize that there's something that doesn't work with whatever the narrative that whomever is playing, you're gonna switch it up. You know, supposedly right, supposedly left. Because at some elements, a lot of the people that find themselves on the right aren't even as far right as they want to play up. And they're just doing it for the money. And the thing is, that money will get you right into that trap. So they don't know. They're just fucking until they run away. So.
All right, so I want to interject. It looks like we lost Mark. We lost Arturo due to technical complications.
Yes.
Damien's family has been informed of the detainment, and if arrangements need to be made, we kind of had some of the logistics covered so far. We don't know if we need to, but for anyone watching who's concerned about his well-being, we're prepared to take care of him and make sure that he's safe.
Okay, cool. Zach, I didn't hear you when you left. You said someone came to the door about Damien?
Yes, his parents were already here.
Oh, okay.
Fast, and other people already knew as well, because he was streaming from his Facebook, which I was capturing from Facebook. So people were watching from there already as well. So they knew when the arrest happened. I just had to handle logistics.
YouTube, Twitch, just say whatever you want, man.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, everything, it's really interesting that I mean, I don't know what time it is in all of these other places, but it looks like Atlanta was the only place that was cleared out. And I know you were saying earlier, Atlanta has been treated much more severely. Our protesters have been treated much more severely than some of the other cities, and I'm curious, does anyone know why that is?
I don't know why, but I've been watching these live streams and other sources since this started, and the response level is entirely different in Atlanta.
It's looking like that, yeah.
Yeah. what's interesting, it's two levels of different. So on the one hand, they've enacted almost a no tolerance policy to protesting past the curfew, in an overly zealous way, and protesting in ways they do not like. Because I believe it was yesterday when there was two sets of protesters and some of them in front of the Capitol, 25 protesters were immediately arrested. And one of the people being arrested kept their phone on for a protracted period of time, and and the police was aware of that. One of the police officers let slip that they had orders to simply arrest the protesters, like just no matter what. And this was well before curfew. We're talking like 4 p.m., 5 p.m., something like that. It's just there seems to be a concerted effort in Atlanta to actually stop the protests altogether. And the concentration is on the protesters. The massive amount of looting that we had in a district called Buckhead, for those of you who are watching and not from Atlanta, that's our upper class district towards the middle part of the inner city. There was almost no police presence there when that happened, and that's why it got as bad as it did. And they did not come until well after the looting was done. The looting has been given as an excuse for the excessive curfew, but the police have still yet to show up in any of the many outlying counties and districts that looting has persisted in. And in fact, the opposite has happened. Police have been pulled out of those areas to be downtown. So the concentration is to end the protest, not to deal with the looting. Now, there's a contrast to that. In Atlanta, besides the 2 college kids, in which 6 police officers have now been fired, there have been very, very few instances of reports of police brutality. So while at sort of a top level, the police placement and their sort of what their job role has been dictated from the top, I have a lot of issue with the way the actual individual police, with the exception of that one major incident that was caught on camera and has made major news, the police have largely behaved better than in other places. In fact, there have been more police dialogues between protesters here in Atlanta before the curfew hit than in most other places besides Columbus, Ohio. So it just seems like top-down management of it, either from the governor or from other sources, have pulled resources away and are attempting to end the actual protest and are mismanaging where these police are, and they are just basically given no choice in where they need to be. But the individual officers are not necessarily acting as aggressively in other places we've seen.
I wonder where that is coming from. I could be wrong about this, but I feel like Atlanta is very concerned with its image and being forward and progressive more so than it is interested in actually being forward and progressive.
Right.
And I think we want to present ourselves. I know our slogan for a long time has been the city that's too busy to hate. And I think we don't want to be seen as having any sort of problems here. And I wonder if that has played a factor at all into how we have responded, the fact that we want to promote ourselves and come off as not having problems, not having racial issues and tensions in our city.
And I absolutely agree with that. Because another, like you said, not only is it the city it's too busy to hate, it's also called Black Hollywood because we have a lot of filming here.
Yeah.
And the Black Utopia. And that's actually some of the speeches that came out yesterday, was that was a lie, and that in areas like Buckhead and some of Midtown and the nicer parts of Marietta, which is slightly outside of the ITP area, it is predominantly not black. It is more black than wealthy areas in other cities, but it is still not like actually demographically representative of many black people. And as somebody who has been homeless in this city, the classism is insane here, and there are clear dividing lines between those who have and have not, and the way you are treated when you are inside the circle of haves versus being outside of that. And the majority, the vast majority of our homeless are black, mostly black veterans. And it's a serious problem, and we do not have resources to deal with it. If you're homeless, you are practically entirely on your own. Even nonprofit organizations, it's not safe to use a lot of them. And there are people who are desperately trying to solve the problem, but there's just way too much of it. And again, there's this black, I want to say dysphoria, but it's almost like a, of people who come to this city and they want prosperity. And I'm one of them, even though I'm not black. And you don't necessarily, there's all these extra challenges if you're not already wealthy, and connected. You're clearly an outsider. And if you're black, that's extra on top of that. And if you're homeless, you're already invisible. For homeless and black, you are a non-person. There's nowhere for you to go. And just basic survival is incredibly difficult. And they have no voice. So I can see where the frustration comes from, where the anger comes from, and the necessity to protest. But I agree with you. I think part of the reason why they're trying to make it look like the protests are being dispersed immediately and trying to dissuade them from continuing is they want to continue the sort of lie that Atlanta is a utopia of harmony. It is way better than places I've lived before, and part of the reason I moved here in parts of the city I like is its multicultural nature, and the fact that it's an international city. But it's an international city with problems in which the racism of the 1960s, you can still feel it. Amongst the wealthy that I have palled around with before I became homeless, and it partially caused me to be homeless, the racism was there. And it was a white upper class who was detached from anybody that was a minority or didn't fit in. That Confederate aristocracy air still exists. It's still there. They're the investment class, and that's the reason why these protests are incredibly important.
My dog. I'm sorry, just look at the one. Sorry. Okay, yeah. And Zach, I mean, I think you have such a your story. I think is perfect for these kinds of discussions because I think this happens everywhere in America. I know people say there's two Americas. I would go so far as to say that there are three Americas. We have first class, second class, and third class citizens. And when we see protests like this, it is the rising of the perceived second and third class citizens demanding recognition and equality. And I think that is what is so threatening, not only to Atlanta because it threatens our image, but to cities all over America who want to keep that image.
It's a direct threat to the patrician class. So what you described is, to anybody who studies history, is a perfect description of how Roman class system worked, and we have emulated the Roman model not only in our institutions but culturally. And there is a patrician class at the top that has more rights, even if on paper America claims that we're equal in front of the law. We absolutely are not, in any way, shape, or form, equal in front of the law in the way that it is practically adjudicated in any form. So the patrician class can get away with almost anything. And when I say almost anything, just like the Romans had slaves and the actual law allowed them to do anything to someone else's body if they were of a lower class, we have that here in America. When you hear about Epstein, Weinstein, Trump, Biden, and how they can get away with sex crimes, that is exactly what that is the patrician class has direct access to your body, and if you protest, your life can be ruined. It's what happened to me, but it also happens without a voice to millions of black people. And that is what happens when you go to jail. We joke about it on TV. When you go to jail, you get raped, and that is seen as a just punishment for whatever accused, perceived crime it is. And remember that George Floyd was killed over spending a fake $20 bill that he probably there's almost no logistical way that he knew he had the way counterfeiting works. So being in the accidental possession of false currency can not only get you killed. Had they not killed him, he would have been detained in a prison in which he could be physically violated in the most carnal way, and we would, as a collective society, laugh at it like it's a joke. And there is no process of justice for that treatment. It is considered normal. Then you have a patrician class, you have a plebeian class, which is a quickly diminishing lower class, and then you have the slave class, and the wage slave class, you're not allowed to rise up. The reason why we have protests right now is there's so much unemployment and uncertainty because of COVID-19. People can actually get out there and they don't feel enslaved by the 40 plus hours a week they have to earn just to barely subsist. You must work. You must work in atrocious conditions. That if you're an essential worker, you don't get the resources you need, with almost no rights and ability to negotiate anything fairly with your employer. You are physically chained to your job. Your health care is dependent on the job you have, and because it's coupled with that, the ability to get treatment for any health complication is tied directly to your subservience to the corporate elite. So there is absolutely no equality in this country whatsoever in any way. It is exactly as it was in the Roman times, in which there is a clear, oppressed class of people who exist entirely to enrich the upper class.
And if I can piggyback off of that, in Georgia right now, a lot of, I know as the country faces reopening, a lot of people in different states are going through different phases. And for Georgia, we are doing, hair salons, nail salons, what else? Gyms, restaurants. That's our phase 1. And as many people have already pointed out, Brian Kemp is opening those places first because those are working class people who are more than likely making minimum wage. And he does not want to give people making minimum wage unemployment. He wants to kick those people off of unemployment so he can spend the money elsewhere. And then I think that's an important note to add. And I'm sure that's going to be happening. If it isn't already happening, it's going to be happening in other parts of the country.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a great, not to totally get off topic, but I think that is a perfect kind of discussion to be having about UBI, Universal Basic Income, and why it is so important for a lot of us. I know myself and many other people I've talked to during COVID-19, we all have made more money off of unemployment than we do working, like working jobs, you know. And if that's not a problem, we're not going to address that problem. I mean, you know.
You're exactly right. The fact that unemployment looks like a better solution than actually being employed. If you're employed, if you're sacrificing a chunk of your life, you sacrifice your time for money. That's what you're selling. You're selling your time and your skills, mostly your time. For that. That's a chunk of your daylight hours you're sacrificing to survive for someone else's benefit, because any smart business owner, and I used to be a business owner, for your salary, they calculate the profit they make off of each position before they hire you. So your role in the sacrifice is making someone else money. If that exchange is not equitable enough for your survival, if you are not enriched in the rest of your living hours and comfortable in the sacrifice of that time, it is not a worthwhile exchange for anybody. You know, it is completely broken. And it's completely broken that having to subsist off of unemployment is a net increase in that.
Yeah.
People need to be paid good living wages. And I don't just mean a little better. I mean anybody who sacrifices 40 hours a week should be able to live comfortably in the rest of their time off without struggle. You should be able to go to the doctor when you want to as a human right. And there's an important power dynamic to that, because when you start freeing up people's time and their money equity, that puts you in the position to collectively bargain and have direct economic power that rivals the patrician for upper class. And that's the reason why it's being fought tooth and nail that you cannot do that. Like Bernie Sanders just tried to push forward a relief act that would give people $2,000 a month. That is desperately needed in a time in which cities are on fire, and we are actively at this moment, as I'm talking to you, seeing people flee down the streets.
Yeah, in New York. Yep.
To return stability, because these people are fighting for their livelihoods and their lives just as much as any business owner might be. And, you know, that would return some level of normalcy if they had something to come back to, and that guarantee of survival, that safety net existed. And Republicans are outright blocking it out of the gate, despite how important it is. It shows how little worth you have as a human being, you know, that you can just starve, and the city can just burn as they fiddle like Nero at the top of their palace. It is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah. I mean, you guys hit the 2 points that I was coming on with just the Atlanta.
Emergency vehicles coming down the road here.
You're right on with this whole legacy concept of Atlanta being, you know, Atlanta is both the legacy of rebirth from the goddamn Confederacy, and even more so, it's the legacy of Martin Luther King. You know, there is no ifs, ands, or buts. This is the city of Martin Luther King. And it's embarrassing as fuck what it's doing to itself right now. And that's because they're trying to somehow rebuild something. And I don't know what they're clearly doing it absolutely wrong. And I think the second part, you guys only just kind of mentioned for a second. His name is Brian Kemp. And he's a fake Southern motherfucker. I hate him. Because he doesn't even really have that accent. If you look at
trying to catch up.
Oh, really?
Governor.
Thank you for the donation.
You can find him not speaking in that accent. He already, he's already the guy who was trying to appease Trump by opening Georgia early, and then Trump was like, "What an idiot," right? So now he's trying to appease Trump by being the tough guy.
Yeah,
ironically enough, in Atlanta.
You know, Brian Kemp is such a, you know, like you just said, Chris, just a Trump lapdog.
I can't get through this.
I think, I don't know, I thought maybe we were turning into a swing state.
I'm not going to risk it, guys.
I have no idea moving forward what Georgia is going to look like as far as blue versus red. And it's really disheartening.
Okay, guys.
Really disheartening to know that he is our stupid governor.
Yeah, no, it is.
I mean, this is.
Go ahead, sorry, Chris.
Zero chance I'm riding through those cops.
Oh, this is essentially the final test, I think, in regards to
Zero chance.
what you would consider republicanism. People at this point are still Republican.
For whatever reason.
They're dog. That's it. They're dogs that want to. The pigs are the patrician. The plebeians are the dog.
I'm doing my best.
You know, and they wish to achieve. I mean, Brian Kemp wishes to achieve being something like Trump. He's not nearly as rich as Trump would, you know, but he wants to be there. He wants to be right in his lap. So is somebody who's supporting him right now. Because, who do you have to support? He was already embarrassing enough as a Republican government candidate. You know, literally, I don't remember if you remember that, but the whole, the fight over his candidacy during the primary, extremely dirty, and you know, not as much with Stacey. There was a little bit going on with the other, because there was another Stacey. But
right, I forgot.
Yeah. So but even more so, it's just that everybody already knows Atlanta is blue.
Well, sure.
Everybody knows that some of the surrounding cities are blue. Marietta's losing its redness, but slowly. Gwinnett's losing its redness, not as quickly. they're all just kind of in this weird place. Supposedly we're a purple.
Are we?
That would be cute in like 1970. You know?
Yeah.
Like, because you could at least say that back then Republicans weren't what they are now. Like right now, they literally like they don't care what Trump does; they will support him. And like, he's not even one of them, and they'll support him. Like, he's just only there on paper.
Well,
and, like it's so weird.
And that's kind of the thing with Brian Kemp. I genuinely, you're saying that all these Republicans support him, even though they know he's not really a Republican. They'll support him anyways. I can't tell if I can't tell if Kemp is truly a Republican and holds the values he claims to hold, or if it's just his political gain, because I know a lot of these Republicans don't really care about the Bible. They don't care about the Second Amendment rights or whatever that is that they say they care about. What they care about is money and power, and they'll say whatever they can to keep that power. And with Trump, with Kemp, I really can't tell if he's just an idiot who follows Trump, or if he really holds to these values, if he's just a businessman. I can't tell. I can't get a read on Kemp.
So he's smart enough to know. Yeah, he's smart enough to know when something's damned, but he's also stupid enough to still find him.
Right.
So
sorry.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, so during the election for Kemp, there were ballot problems. He encountered them personally in that his ballot initially was not counted.
Right.
Like when he voted, he had an electoral issue with the technology that he himself, as Secretary of State, had already guaranteed was successful. And it was embarrassing as fuck. And you could see it on his face. You could see the COVID-19 scenario on his face. Friday night, he gave a little talk to Channel 4, and on his face, he realized that he screwed up.
Oh, really?
So what happened, there was an interesting event that nobody talks about anymore Friday night. A cop got run over by an ATV. Said cop is seriously injured. I really, for as much as I already don't really like what is happening and what they're doing, I do feel bad for said cop. Nobody deserves to be run over by an ATV.
Sure.
The news was like, person involved was detained. ATV driver was detained. We'll give you further details later. Since then, they have not given much further details other than the cop is in ICU, which sucks. The reason they're not talking about that was because the only people with ATV are the National Guard.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
oh
so it was the National Guard that ran over a cop, and they stopped talking about it once they realized that there's no story there. I mean, there is a story there, but there is no story there that would help them. They wanted to say a protester.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my.
So, I mean, they also, that same night, the next night, Saturday night, I watched Fox 5, because that night I watched Channel 4. So they were, particularly embarrassing at Channel 4, white-splaining it, more or less. Channel 5 was playing, I don't know if you've kept up with Susan Collins, because, I mean, she's friggin' Maine, but she plays the, I'm concerned about what Trump's doing, but I'm not going to actually stand up.
Really? Oh no, what happened?
Not sure.
You guys... Yep. Did I drop?
No, you're good. I can hear you, Chris.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
I can't see you though.
Yeah, I lost everybody.
Well, okay, Zach, can you hear Chris?
I can hear Chris.
There he is.
Okay. I can't see anybody, but I'm still...
Yeah. Right now, just if video takes up a lot of bandwidth. If you're having trouble with video, just cut the video off because it's, It's there. Right now I can't see any of you because my screen has to be full screen for the capture to work.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
but kind of going off what Chris was just saying, how Susan Collins said she's not going to do anything. That's the problem with centrist Democrats and the entirety of the Republican Party, which, let's face it, centrist Democrats, okay? Centrist Democrats. You're Joe Biden Democrats. Or Democrats like Joe Biden. I don't mean people who vote for Joe Biden, but Democrats like Joe Biden. And Republicans, centrist Republicans, really are kind of the same thing, right? There are minor differences here and there, but they're basically the same thing. In Washington, the centrists and the right-wing Republicans aren't doing anything. And the left doesn't have enough power, operative word yet. Yes, they will get the power, I believe that, but they don't have it yet. And as long as you have politicians who are saying things like that, nothing's going to change. We have to stop electing the lesser of the two evils. We have to stop putting ourselves in these positions. To a degree, I get we can't help who runs, right? But we got to stop putting ourselves in positions where two old white guys are our only choices. Sorry, Chris. Didn't mean to co-opt your train of thought there. It just...
No, you're right on. Yeah. I feel like the one thing I could say about that is the way the left has to work. It has to be like effectively anti-hierarchical. It has to be heterarchical so that we all participate into the power. No, not per se inherently like equally in that everybody gets the exact same share. It's more like inherently equally in that everybody has a voice and everybody's. People like to quantize power, but clearly you cannot quantize power. You quantize money, but that money is purely an abstraction. Is what people get lost in. But yeah, like essentially it was just weird. I remember specifically at one point Fox 5 said Antifa, and it was really funny because like they knew they couldn't really keep pushing the narrative. The only people who are pushing the narrative are straight up the dogs. Like, CNN won't say Antifa. You know, if they'll say Antifa, they'll say it in quotes of Trump saying it. You know, like you know, they know better at this point. A lot of the Fox News, like corporate Fox News, won't even actually say it. But, you know, a good chunk of them obviously will because they literally are Trump's channel. So, you know, and they're scared of losing Trump to OAN, like, retired Nazi or something. But yeah, like, it's one thing here, something that I really admire in the Occupy movement in relation to this as well is that everybody who's in it, you know, for the real reason, they are uniting together. You know, like it is just a big freaking like mishmash of where you stand, who you are, and then there's like a few nutcases. And even then, like at some level, I feel like a few nutcases, given whatever life they've lived, maybe they deserve to get away with breaking a window. I don't know. I'm not pro breaking into things in any way because it puts yourself at risk more than anything else. But like, I mean, if you've literally been in and out of prison and like you fucking like straight up live on the streets already, and somebody's like, "Don't you dare break into that jewelry store." They just broke that lady's window.
Yeah, I was just about to say, what's going on in Los Angeles? It looks like, I don't know what, I missed it. Well, it's kind of like what I was saying earlier. Why is the right of the, oh, my dog's growling in his sleep, that's so cute. Why is someone's property valued more than human lives? And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I'm condoning any sort of violent action. I'm not. But you know, I'm also not necessarily gonna say I don't understand why people do what they do, kind of like what you were just saying. And of course, we've discussed that a lot of people who are inciting violence, they seem to be cops, undercover cops, or maybe lone provocateurs. I've heard many different things, and I think that's another problem. How this is being covered, we don't know a lot of it. And I know Zach has sent me some really great articles. Zach, I don't know if you're busy with chat and you can kind of discuss some of the articles you sent me about the riot.
So I do want to go over that. However, I have just made contact with Damien. So,
oh, wonderful.
He is still sitting in the wagon. He doesn't know where we're going to be.
I saw him earlier too.
I'm gonna name drop one guy.
Sure.
In terms of authors.
I love authors. Do tell.
But at this point,
I want to make sure that I don't get his name wrong. Embarrassed. Yeah. Come on. Load. Screen. Word. Name. Google. DuckDuckGo. Anyhow, David Graeber. He was there at the David Graeber. He was there at Occupy. He's a huge anthropologist.
wow.
Covered particularly bureaucracy in anthropological like statements, like literally bureaucracy since the year 3000 BC, onwards. Same thing with debt. He had a whole book about debt. That book covers over, as Zach mentioned, the Roman system that we've attempted to inherit. We fail at some level, and also you don't want to inherit the Roman system regardless. As much as we think it's great, it's not really the rule of all. Particular phrase is domain. Like, domain is dominus. That's the leader of a household in a Roman society, particularly patrician, sometimes plebeian classes. The dominus owned slaves. He also owned his wife. And so, like, in the similar term, that term decides, matrimony. That is literally where our legal system defining a lot of our marriage system, and of course our slavery system, was defined by the Roman slave. When you get into the nature of power, that's essentially what they're still trying to enforce. And so, dominate them is clearly a term used by somebody who wishes to somehow return to Julius Caesar.
I think there's a huge link between Trumpian republicanism and authoritarianism, and the need and desire for order above all else, rule of law above all else, and strict punishment for the breaking of that law. And I think that is, what's that face you're giving me?
No, it's just that I can't see anybody.
If I were to interrupt real quick, it's not just strict rule of law. It's strict rule of law that only applies to the lower classes. It's the rule of law that is meant to be used weaponized. The rules do not apply to the upper class. The reason why Trump is very popular with people who do not share like the on-paper ideals is because he's the ultimate power fantasy, where he gets to make rules that other people follow, but he is not beholden to the rules, and that is freedom to them. It's not any sort of like true version of freedom. It is the freedom to oppress, and it is the free to be the authority, and that is what authoritarians sort of strive for. And it really, honestly, we mislabel conservatives because there are very few actual people seeking to conserve American values and the American environment and the American way. They're not conservative, they're authoritarian. They stopped being conservatives in like the 90s.
I'm going to make my contribution. So let's go back to the 60s, and the last true conservatives were the Rockwell? No, not Rockwell. Oh my God. Rockwell, right? Norman Rockwell. or is he the painter?
Repeat what he's repeating.
Yeah, Rockefeller, the Rockefeller.
Oh, Rockefeller.
That's what I'm
There we
thinking.
go.
Yeah, Nelson Rockefeller. They ran against the Goldwater Republican. The Goldwater were purely reactionary to effectively the Kennedy, the loss of Nixon to Kennedy. That Nixon was a failure. So Goldwater was like insane, effectively pre-Trumpian. And the Rockefeller Republicans lost control of the party to the effective Nixonian Goldwater Republican. And of course, Nixon became president in 1968. The last Rockefeller Republican to attempt to get to run for president in the campaign to be nominated was Romney's dad. And since then, it's just been like Nixon, who obviously did a lot of bullshit to get in the presidency. If you go to the the Lyndon Johnson library, you'll find archives of Lyndon Johnson learning treason and realizing he couldn't do anything about it because it was like literally off 68. So yeah, like stuff like that was constantly happening. So obviously Gerald Ford wasn't elected. Reagan did similar bullshit. Reagan was assisted by the Bush family, and the Bush family did similar bullshit. And now we have Trump, who did similar bullshit. So like the phrase for a period of false rule as opposed to a period of idiot rulers, which is kleptocracy, or that's not a period, that's rule by idiots. A period of false rule is an interregnum, which happened quite a few times over like the last few thousand years. The term was phrased. It's essentially like nobody knows who's supposed to be actually the president, or not the president, but the king at the time. Because some king died, he had no legitimate children, there's some bastards, and there's some cousins, and who should be king. And so there's a war, and shit goes down, and so on and so forth. Well, like, I feel like there might be multiple periods in America which there could definitely be claimed was an interregnum. I feel like the past has been roughly an interregnum of the Republican Party. Because, like, the old Rockefeller conservative Republicans were, they were old, rich white people, so undoubtedly racist. But, like, they at least were of that class where they followed this all noblesse oblige.
Yeah, noblesse oblige. Anyone have a good French accent out there?
I'm
Not
sorry.
me. So does anyone have a good French accent out there?
Oblique.
Noblesse oblige.
Yeah, it's oblique.
The obligation of the noble, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. To actually like be a sensible ruler. That fell out. That clearly fell out. And the people that are in the Democratic Party are essentially either leftovers from not being a member of the new Republican Party, or they're essentially people that have no one. Like, they literally just are like, we have no space to be in the Republican Party. We would literally be more or less thrown the fuck out if we tried to join. And if we tried to run on our own, ideas, we're pretty much never going to get elected. And I applaud the few out there that really do freaking try to do that and run off their own ideas, but like we have an institution that prevents that. So yeah, that's where we are now. But yeah, like, it's kind of weird how it's all sorts of ties together, and of all the bullshit that is the Trump administration, his failures are causing said reality to collapse. Dude, Loud Lab just ran that red light.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah. Unless California law is different. I mean, hell, it's California.
Boomer, wait, come back.
These guys in northbound, they're turning on, it's going to be one west of Van
It looks like LA is about to slam down.
Right. Yeah, it's looking kind of hardcore.
That's the one talking.
Washington is always. I need to stop touching my mouse. Washington is always the one I watch for because that is the one that is the. I mean, it's the capital of the nation, but it's also. I mean, Trump is right there, and if Trump wants to make an authoritarian statement, that's the place to do it. It was also the heaviest rioting. The first, we're not really technically the first day. The first day I was tuned in for it, they got onto the lawn. They passed that first perimeter. You know, they were working their way towards the White House. It was hardcore. Like 50 to 60 Secret Service people were injured that day. There is real, actual rage. Yeah, there's real, actual rage with the people of Washington, D.C. and the protesters who've come there against the administration. And I think it's incredibly palpable and important that we watch what that looks like and how dissatisfied people are with what Trump represents.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, Lindsey fucking Graham better be watching. I know McConnell's watching.
Yeah,
I know McConnell is so totally backpedaling.
Yeah,
it's so funny to see that shithead backpedal. I mean, like you saw him just less than a month ago, and he was just hard line. He's just like, we need to get the economy back running. We need to stop this unemployment, blah blah. You know, like he was just playing it because you know I feel like McConnell has more say than honestly the Trump. And of course, you know, every senator can always take the back seat.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's literally just letting the Trump administration be the embarrassing part of the party. He's already embarrassed himself a million times and always kept his. So, I mean, he's gonna be there until he retires. Kentucky really shows up, and it'd be great if Kentucky shows up. I mean, it's funny that Ron Paul quit. That's like that was already.
There is a senator. There is a Bernie Sanders backed progressive who is running against Mitch McConnell. So, yeah.
Oh right, I saw that. Yeah, just hoping he wins.
That would be amazing.
There's also like there's a few others that aren't Bernie Sanders back there, like full on progressive. There's one that's like essentially half progressive that was a former Marine, and so like you know like that's a thing. You know, I'm not the biggest pro-military. I've known plenty of Marines myself, and plenty of them are pretty fucking progressive because they've seen the front line. You know, they're much like the Army. Plenty of the Army is fucking progressive. They've seen the front line. They know the results of the circumstances. And most of them, they're only recruited because they themselves report, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, so, like, if you have a progressive, like, military member, that's amazing. But, like, even more so, if somebody's actually going to be more progressive, I'm going to be more interested in them. But, I mean, given whatever circumstances, Kentucky being Kentucky.
It doesn't matter.
It is interesting. Chunk of my workforce is out of Kentucky, and they aren't in Louisville, but like I'm pretty sure they're seeing the effects of this, and I know some of them are totally like conflicted about who they are and what they feel right now. I'm not talking to them about it because I'm not the kind of person to bring this stuff up at work because
that's fair.
Yeah, but like I'm still gonna be just listening to them. I already deal with tons of people calling in and they're gonna say whatever the hell. You know, like it's weird. They'll blame whoever they hate. It's just like whatever. Like just keep going. You're being recorded.
Oh shit, they're being recorded. Damn.
Just gotta watch.
We're being recorded right now too, but we're being recorded knowing that we're going into that.
Right.
That's okay with me. Like
I have an out right there to my
I've
left.
already probably been recorded in the.
This is being recorded for posterity. If you could do me a favor, Chris, your audio is audible, but you're dropping slowly over time. So whatever readjustment you need to make. I don't know. I think you're just moving your mic around whenever that happens. You good?
It's, this headset has like one of those dangling mics, so it's not something
you were good there for a minute. You dropped back down. I know what's going on because I have one of those too. Yeah, no, I get you.
Yeah, no, I think the headset looks. I am a little confused about why Discord. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Right, so I got some more feedback. For a second, it was only me.
Yeah.
It keeps. So right now I don't see Ray, but that's okay.
Oh yeah, sorry, I took my screen off.
Yeah, yeah. Taking the screen off saves so much bandwidth and can increase audio quality. So if you unless you just desperately want to do it, it's not mission critical.
I'll go ahead and drop out of the video feed myself and just keep on audio then.
Yeah.
That way.
This guy right here. There's that news
That
van.
prevents that issue. All right. So yeah, I might have to head out pretty much soon enough. It's already.
Do what?
It's already.
Sorry, 10:30. I wonder how long these are going to keep going.
Well into.
Well into the night. Yeah, well into the night.
These things so far these streams have gone well into 4 a.m. when I've watched them.
Oh, that's wonderful. And so, have we heard anything else from Atlanta? Atlanta is pretty much just cleared out.
We don't.
Is that true?
This is what happened. This is what happened last night, and this is what's different from Atlanta from every other city. Is that after they drop the tear gas at curfew, they aggressively arrest people, so it just all the feeds with Atlanta drop, and then the major news organizations do not do flyovers anymore. So we don't get to know what's going on in Atlanta after about 9:30. That happened last night too. So I do not know what's going on. And tonight I watched it happened to my friend. Last night I watched this Atlanta streamer Peachy Rider. She has a YouTube. If anybody who listens to this, you can go to Peachy Rider and watch the footage from her stuff. I watched the exact same thing that happened to Damien happen to her, like almost beat for beat. So at the exact same time. So like there is, like I said, it's that concerted effort to like clear the protest out immediately in Atlanta. That is not what is happening in other cities. Even if, you know, it's just they don't want the protest at all, regardless of any sort of PR that Mayor Bottoms is putting out. And it's entirely possible that Mayor Bottoms is actually supportive. This may be coming down from the governor, but there is a very, very concerted effort for no one to see it.
Absolutely. And I don't doubt a portion of that is Brian Kim. That seems to be almost certain.
Right.
Because, correct me if I'm wrong, I could be wrong about this, but if my memory serves, Brian Kemp was in Georgia, we were one of the first states to have the National Guard come down. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they were the first ones to deploy them in force, and they've been deployed in aggressive force.
Yeah.
So it is very different from some. You'll see them at the other protests tertiarily, providing logistics, but most other places are putting their actual police forces at the forefront. And some of the criticisms I have are they exist in other cities, but it is far more pronounced here in Atlanta. And it's a state of the unknown. It is mirroring the COVID situation where it's kind of like no testing. You can kind of say that you don't know what's going on, so it seems like there's less, but there's probably actually more.
Right.
But all I know, Buckhead is on fire again, and if it is, and if it is, it's entirely possible there's no police dealing with it, and they're all making a show of force that's only visible downtown against peaceful protesters, and everything else is a hellhole. But then the next day, since there's no news covering it and there's nobody filming, they can say, well, you didn't see it. So, that sort of thing. JD Everhart just posted in there a Snapchat that broke. I'm going to click the link.
Okay.
Snap map. I don't know what you're trying to show us, Don.
But in there, you have to just kind of highlight for it.
Chris, you trying to talk to us?
Oh, you can't hear me?
But you're very, very low again. Still with us?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. You're better now. Yeah. So what were you saying?
All right. You have to highlight the whole link and kind of browse for it.
Right. Okay.
And
yeah, that's what he's saying too. Yeah.
What? Search for the link?
He had to copy the link. So copy the whole link, pasted it in, and
just hit enter. Don't try to search for the link.
Right.
Tap map. Tap
That's
anywhere and
6.
watch snaps submitted by chat.
All the snaps for Atlanta are old on the map. They're like 4 or 6 hours old.
Yeah, they have a pretty good heat point.
Right.
I give Snapchat that they actually create a nice heat.
According to this, there's a heat point that's still near Lucky Street. 1 hour ago. There we go. I see APCs moving down the street.
Oh yes, they've expanded heavily if they're at Lucky. Yeah.
Yeah, there are APCs moving down the street. It is a straight militarized force.
Are there a lot of are they trying to back protesters up? Like what are they responding to?
They were just in the corner. I can try to bring it up on the main screen so you guys can see it. Give me like 2 seconds.
Okay.
I don't know how I'm gonna be able to make this work. Give me like let's try this.
We'll give you 3 seconds.
I probably shouldn't have tried to do all this in Vivaldi because it's a really fun browser.
Nope, that doesn't work.
It works.
I don't have any. That doesn't work.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah.
I'm exactly that kind of person.
Yeah, give me a second. Let me see if I can just message this to myself real quick. Email it to myself.
Thanks, JD, Jade Eberhardt. That actually is pretty useful.
Yeah, it's very useful. So I'm gonna email it to myself.
I wonder how long this is going to be like fully available. Snapchat would allow this.
Right.
In posterity, because then this is going to be pretty useful. Retroactively, definitely.
Right.
This is literally.
So I'm going to change what people on Twitch can see.
Exactly.
Real quick to the title card. So I can set this up and not everybody see all my email. And
Jay Deverhart says Inception. He was talking
yeah,
about
yes, because you could see, because you could see the stream and the stream and the stream. And
I mean,
across the map. And then we're gonna go
while you're doing that, can I say like some goofy philosophy that I've totally been like getting into?
Sure.
Not like I'm not like trying to advertise somebody else's shit. Like, effectively, the reality of all this is the meta story. Like, we can see this firsthand, but the meta story is what's happening and why it's happening. You know.
Right.
And so, you know, why are we in this scenario in the first place? Beyond like the get-in answers, it's like it's a game of power and it's a game of lie. Oh, I'm dead.
Yeah, you're here.
It's just another example.
Oh yeah,
of a white
okay,
kid.
all right.
Yeah,
So
you're good.
Oh yeah,
Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah. Essentially,
When that's not what the movement
like
wants.
for as much as the political narrative and news people are going to tell you one thing, obviously they're telling you a different than what is the reality. And then you can go to the street yourself and see the reality.
Speaking of that,
even more so.
Real quick, not to cut you off or put you on pause for a second, but Ray, can you see the screen?
No, I can't.
No, you can't see it in Discord, but I can see it on Twitch.
All right. So, can you get to my Twitch stream so you can see it?
Ugh, does this mean I actually have to get a Twitch account now?
No,
You don't. You don't have to log in.
No, I'm kidding. I mean, I just mean like if we continue to do this, I'm just like, oh.
It's helpful, but no, you don't have to do it. Yeah, just go to.
You know what? I'm gonna get a Twitch account. We're gonna watch, or you're gonna watch me play Knights of the Old Republic. It's gonna be bad, and it's gonna be fine.
We need to do that. We do.
All right.
But yeah.
I think I'm looking at you. I think I'm looking at this. Zach's stream room.
Yes. Yes, and you see
What?
you see Centennial Park right here.
Yeah. What?
You see Centennial Park right here. Oh no.
Yep.
You need to mute that.
Yep. Just did it. Sorry, guys.
Cool. So this is what I was talking about. Let me see if I can bring it up here.
Thank you everybody for watching.
See if I can pull up
You can hear me on
the militarized response again.
That memorial right
Thank you
there
for,
that they had was on the news for a second too. That's actually valid.
Yes.
You can't protest and leave it there. The cops there and fucking slam it. Literally has American flags. If the cops slam it over, they're violating the flag code.
All right, so this experiment has totally failed because I cannot show you. I cannot go back to the one that it was on because it's not appearing as an icon, and I'm just clicking randomly in the thing. It's not working. So there may still be people here, but it's an hour old, so I doubt it. I'm gonna swap back over to Woke real quick so we can continue to talk.
Back to normal, guys.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, Chris. I was trying to get that to work because there are APCs that are moving around downtown Atlanta. I got to see that on there. So there is a heavy militarized response to try to make any protesting stop downtown.
You guys heard that?
But
You
yeah.
guys heard that in the chat?
Anyway.
All right, yeah. That's an interesting notion. That's a narrative that needs to be exposed effectively. That Atlanta is way heavier in its like enforcement against literally a Black Lives Matter protest in the city that is the Martin Luther King fucking city of America.
Yeah, they were a block away from Lucky Street. That's not too far away from Edgewood, which is where King's Church is.
Where Friendship Baptist Church is. Yes.
Yeah.
If you look right now on the stream, Memphis, Tennessee seems to be like super chill. There's dudes going around picking up trash. They're just being there. Memphis was obviously the other big Martin Luther King.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes, Don, if you can get any of the ones to actually work, because I'm having trouble to work and I am live, if you can get any of the footage of the APCs moving around, especially near Lucky's in that area, which I had open on my laptop, if you could literally do a screen capture of your screen and then send it to me so I can put it up, that would be amazing. But like mostly it was just randomly showing anything I clicked on the heat map. JD, I've heard Don. That's Don. He's the other roommate. He's in chat right now.
Hey, Don.
Yeah.
Hi, Don. But yeah, I think in summation, you can't talk about what's going on without talking, obviously, racial tensions, but class and social structures and dynamics throughout the country. I think it's all kind of the same conversation. It's not the same conversation, but the conversations tie in together.
Thank you. Thank you for donating.
And you can't fix one without fixing the other. And that's why this problem, demanding things of police is a good start, but that's not the end-all be-all, and it's not going to change things.
Yeah.
Immediately.
The police are just the enforcers as much as they claim.
Posting a fake subscribe.
They're the enablers as well. I mean, like, you cannot enforce the laws without being somebody, like, enabling, the ability to. But, like, I guess that's something that they need to realize. They claim they're only they are, so, yeah, like, there's a interesting thread of discussion about the second wave feminist movement. First wave feminist movement was lockstep with the abolition. Like, there was just there's no peace, no justice.
Yeah.
Like, they were like, if black people are not continue, like, if you don't free black people, like, there's no point in this supposed democratic experiment. Much is the same as women not being allowed to vote. So going into the second wave, which was purely on the aspect of even though women can vote, much like even though black people can vote, there's clearly a lot of bullshit. Then here, Don just posted the link, but yeah, like it's all in it together. Like, you can't sit here and just play your group and then just not anybody else's. Like, that, it's weird. In the 70s, like, something collapsed. It's weird. In the 70s, essentially half of the second wave feminist movement is totally there with everybody else, and the other half was effectively the upper class didn't care about the black women. They were not there. They only wanted it for as much as they can continue. They were the professional class, and they wanted to not be harassed in their professional jobs, and that's understandable. But that's all they want. Like, they didn't care about anybody on the job. So, yeah, that's where we are at, effectively seeing. I don't know how it took 50 years, but I mean, there was 50 years of plenty of resistance, but only just now are we at this.
Okay, the stream is still going. I just have it on the title card so you don't see my own email as I email myself the link to open this. All right, I am.
All right, guys, I'm gonna disconnect and try to reconnect because I didn't hear anything Chris just said.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm good. All right, I guess I'll wait. Chris, you still with me?
Yeah, I'm right here.
All right. Ray, are you back in?
I am back in.
Okay, 1 second. You guys can both see the stream?
I see the thumbnail.
The thumbnail? Alright, cool. I'm about to swap back over. I want you guys to both watch this. I'm going right back over right now. This is what I was talking about, the militarized response. That's what it looks like in downtown Atlanta right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that is a complete militarized response. Those are APCs. Armored personnel
So why are
carriers.
they even there? There's literally nobody there except for
Yeah,
the guy
where's
that's in the parking garage.
So I'll replay that again because it goes by really quick. Yeah. Full militarized response in downtown Atlanta.
I mean, full on conceptually, we already have the technology to centralize Atlanta, right? Google Maps, right? We have millions upon billions of hours of footage that is official cameras throughout Atlanta, right? And now we have everybody participating in the protest that has any sort of footage of it. There's going to be essentially a puzzle piecing together of all of it. It might not have 100% of it. Immediately, something is going to happen together, and it's going to be there in posterity. And those camera systems already can recognize your phone, even when you're using Snapchat, whatever the kids are using these days, you know. And obviously the stuff that's obviously official PD and whatever. Right.
Okay, we might get some more visuals from Atlanta. The lower right-hand corner of Woke Stream popped up 11 Alive for a second, but now we're black again. Like that was
Yeah,
a
it's
false
a weird
alarm.
stream. It's like a YouTube or an official 11 Alive.
Yeah, it looks like it's not going anywhere.
We're back at Union Square. Back at Union
like,
Square.
Beyond the protester,
Sorry.
police, like, and like,
We are
I don't know,
incredibly
like,
far from Manhattan Bridge.
I think a
I think
big
so, at
amount of
least.
this is that
We're not
the
going
sheer
anywhere. Following
information,
this group.
like reality of the only footage you had was from... Did I drop out?
No, you're good. You're still with me. Ray, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm having a really hard time hearing Chris though. He's dropping in and out real bad for me.
Okay.
So sorry, I'm not responding. I can't really get
Just so
what
you
you're
know,
saying.
Chris, you've been steady with me right now. Your volume has dropped slightly, but you're good. It's okay if you're not saying anything. I'm listening and interacting when I can. I am also not only just managing the stream, but I'm also managing Damien's support. So I'm trying to do two things at once. Just keep the conversation going as best you can, and again, I'll interject in. But I think the content that's being made here is really great and good and informative for everybody. The discussion's been really great. Anyway, please continue, Chris.
Well, yeah, like essentially, so going back into like the early 90s, roughly the concept of Little Brother was a thing. Cory Doctorow, who's just Eli Doctorow's son, so both sci-fi authors, had a big cover of what he referred to as Little Brother, which is, as opposed to Big Brother, it's literally the American civilian, or not the just the civilian, not even civilian, I guess, the human aspect of covering whatever is happening and reflecting upon reality. Little brother's grown up, essentially. I dated back to roughly the 90s and maybe before that. I just do that because that was in a Rage Against the Machine song. Yeah, Voice of the Voiceless, by the way, which is a 1999-2000 album. But it's a heck of a point to make that previously information control was by the people in control. You know, like you go back the last 100 years, it's, you know,
Sorry to
you
interrupt
had to
you.
have money to publish.
Sorry to interrupt you one more time. We're going to more footage of Atlanta right now, of the militarized response in Atlanta. These are the Humvees coming through. The radar dish you see on top might be a sound dispersal unit. It'll play a very high pitched, or a very, very high, I don't know if it's pitch, but a sound that will disperse somebody. I think that's what you see them on, like, ships a lot. Yeah, I think that's what that is. It might just be a massive megaphone, but it looks like it's one of those. I haven't heard of one being deployed yet.
You mean the LRADs?
The LRADs, yeah. I think that looks like an LRAD. Yeah. That looks like an LRAD.
They are, they're like literally sonic, like, effective guns. Like, they can aim them. It's not just single. It's just that, like, not too long ago when they came out, the conservatives were just like masturbating at their like, oh, look how great they are, but like they're not as effective as they wish. Obviously, they're made to hit like individuals. So like doing them against a crowd, all right. I mean, you might as well be shooting rubber bullets, you know. So it's a big waste of money and the militarization, you know. But it's there. They're insane technology. They could be used for better things, but
yeah. I feel like all of the technology within the U.S. government and military could be used for better things, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we had if the Defense Act had been enabled by Trump, everybody would have PPE right now. It wouldn't be
right.
Yeah, it wouldn't be difficult. We could totally have that.
I don't know where the other group is.
You know, let's not forget all of this is incredibly important, and we need to be paying attention. But let's not forget what is being passed right now with the Patriot Act. They're trying to revamp the Patriot Act. Mitch McConnell is heading that, and they just, I think it was a couple weeks ago, no, maybe last month or something. I don't know. The days are all blurring together. They made it legal for your browser history to be obtained without a warrant. So as all of this is happening, COVID, these protests, the government, Congress is still going strong. They are still passing things. And we need to be vigilant, not only against police brutality, but what other things the government is pushing forward.
You're exactly right, because what is passed Congress right now allows them to look at your browser history without a warrant, and that is horrifying. This is, as you just said.
Yeah.
It is, you know, a lot of us right now who are afraid. I cannot tell you how many of us are looking up how to buy a gun, how to order one online, where we politically stand and whatnot. And all of that could be misconstrued as you belonging to this amorphous, fictional terrorist organization that is being labeled as Antifa. And if you're labeled as a terrorist, all your civil rights go away. That is very, very, very scary. That you could be labeled immediately as an enemy combatant against the state simply by looking at the wrong thing out of, you know, fear of defending your own home or anything like that. I'm going to swap over to another Snapchat that Don has sent us real quick. Of this is much earlier in the day. This is 2 hours ago. Of a troop transport truck delivering troops or possibly supplies. Give me a minute. Move back over to that entirely.
Yeah, earlier NPR had, well, it was actually Minnesota Public Radio for a moment. They had just like a call-in show, and they let a lot of people that were in the protests call in, and they each had, you know, their own interesting enough scenarios, and one person who would be effectively what would be labeled as Antifa called in, and you could hear it in them. They're like clearly absolutely terrified at the fact that, you know, they can be considered a terrorist for being at a protest. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the same time, at that
so
point,
funny.
you like
The
you
white
have
people
to.
are
At that
changing
point,
to
you're
you
just
want.
being. Well, you're being marginalized. You
It's
have
so
to
stupid.
ultimately fight back. You can't sit here and just let it happen.
Like
I just want to interrupt real quick. I absolutely agree with Don in the chat right now that he is saying he's not afraid. He's fucking livid, and you have every right to be. And I'm with you, man.
Yeah.
I am pissed that this has happened to our country.
Yeah, absolutely. So that Snapchat you just played that Dawn gave us, it is from earlier in the evening. Is that correct? It looked like it based on how light it was outside.
Yeah, that was from 2 hours ago.
Okay, yeah.
Which 2 hours ago is still past curfew. It was just that it was turned at an angle the light was there. So it was clear the dispersion of the protesters was done seemingly largely with the backing of the National Guard. An incredibly strong military response here in Atlanta, Georgia.
Do we know, and I'm looking this up right now, but does anyone know off the top of their heads what other cities have the National Guard in them?
I do not know. I know that earlier today, the governor of New York State and the mayor of New York City were going back and forth about the deploying of the National Guard, with the governor of New York being adamant that he wasn't going to deploy it unless it was at the wishes of anyone below him, deferring only to that he legally had the ability to, but he did not want to displace the mayor of New York's decision not to. And the mayor of New York, I believe, has not done so. Watching the live streams, it really does look like most other major cities besides Washington, D.C. have not deployed a militarized response. Washington, D.C. has different rules because they're not technically a state, and they're trying to defend strategic points within the capital. It's a little bit more understandable, but not I'm not seeing military in any of these other cities. Atlanta, Georgia has a strong military response that is unique to the way that we're treating our protesters. And Chris is right earlier to point out how frightening it is that this is the home of Martin Luther King Jr. and the protests are not being tolerated. Even if they are peaceful. And again, my criticism goes to the fact that it does not seem to be targeting looters. It seems to be targeting protesters. Very little has actually been done with the looters from what I've seen.
Yeah. It's like they retroactively care to deal with the looters.
I just read something that said there were 17,000, and I did not read this extensively, so take it with a grain of salt. I read something that there were 17,000 National Guard troops deployed in 15 to 23 states. I think it's 23, and those included D.C.
Okay.
So I don't know how many of those National Guard, how many of the cities are actually using the National Guard, or if they're just, I don't know how that works, if they're just having them there, or if they're actually actively using them like Atlanta did. But I think it's so important that we continue to highlight and harp on the fact that this is Martin Luther King's city. This is the city that's too busy to hate. This is the city I have heard called Black Hollywood, Black Mecca, and our voices are being stepped on and brushed aside by our over-militarized response. I think that's so important and cannot be said enough that is happening. And Chris and Zach, I know you've already said that, and I'm going to continue to echo that point. And we can see in Washington, D.C., that's Washington, D.C. people look like, what's going on? Where are they going? Can we tell? Looks like they have their hands up.
Well, the hands up is a part of the protest tactics.
Yes, I figured as much, yeah.
They'll shout hands up, don't shoot, which both shows that they are non-combatants, and it's also mocking the fact that blacks will comply and still get shot.
Right.
But yes, it looks like they're walking through some sort of tunnel. I do not know the topography of Washington D.C. that well. It looks like they went through a major tunnel through the city.
Yeah.
And are moving around. I noticed that LA, New York, and DC, the protests are quite mobile. except for the ones that are around the White House itself, which we don't have any footage of tonight, it looks like on Woke. But they're moving around a good bit. I don't know what the cheering is going on. They've sort of centered on DC.
Don pointed out in the chat that, yeah, before the curfew, generally the police are going to be somewhat pretty peaceful. Well, everything is pretty peaceful, and the police don't respond as much other than containing the protests to their designated areas. That in and of itself is true, yes. The police they're standing their line. There's a question on designated protest. I particularly had a professor, an architecture professor, that really did not like the notion that in Atlanta, if you protested, you had to be at the CNN Center. And like, he's just like, there's a Capitol down the road, and you're at the CNN Center in hopes that CNN takes footage of you. And then CNN doesn't take footage of you. And that's the end of your protest. Obviously, yeah, the cops are like gonna define the lines. They're gonna tell you where you can be. And even more so, they're gonna pull somebody out to try to assist, or they're gonna find something. I mean, that's the role of being a cop. You get called to a location because somebody claimed something happened. You go to the location. If they're willing to come talk to you, you talk to them. You go look at where they point at, and there's nothing there, and you can't do anything about it. I know this from the fact that I'm the person that's called the cops on multiple domestic disturbances. I've called the cops on gunshots going off in my neighborhood. You know, I know plenty of cops personally, and like I'm more than willing to walk up and talk to them about whatever the hell is going on, because they know I'm not like any threat to them. At the same time, like, yeah, that's the bottom line is they can only react to what they are allowed to react to. But when they do react, that's what happens, and there becomes this like, how far are they reacting is where we're at now. You know, kill a man. So like, yeah, there's this fine distinction. And yeah, like you said, Ray, yeah, there are a lot of National Guard deployed around the states. That particular article, because I saw it, I forgot about it until you mentioned it, is that it says there's more National Guard people deployed in the United States for this event than there are in any foreign countries, like military, like deployed in locations from like the Middle East and such. Yeah, it's really screwed up. But like, where are they in these other footages? I think they're actually being used correctly to protect vital locations. So if you had 1 million National Guardsmen surrounding the Georgia State Capitol, no surprise there. Why are they at the CNN Center? You know, like, I mean, other than the fact that somebody threw some shit at the CNN Center on Friday night. Yeah. But like, people threw some shit all over New York Friday night too. So yeah, it's Minnesota doesn't have as much as Atlanta does. So
yeah, you're echoing a point that we talked about, and it's a really important point. That's a total waste of their resources to go after the concentrated protesters when the looting has already been demonstrated does not happen where the protesters are, because the organized protesters at the CNN Center are not the people causing damage. It is people who are taking the opportunity of the protest but going in a different district because of how class stratified the sections of Atlanta are. They're going to Buckhead and other rich areas and causing damage there. And there has not been a police presence in the last couple of days at all to protect those areas or other homes or businesses. So they're only being used as a show of a force against protesters, which, if we actually had the legal philosophical argument, even with curfew, would have every right to be there. You know, it isn't, the curfew is not some blanket thing that can actually, in America, be given. It's actually the reason why the curfew was not enforced for COVID-19, because this is the double standard. We're talking about how curfew is being imposed, and realistically the police can do whatever they want after the curfew is listed. Well, we had a curfew for COVID-19 and they didn't do that. at all. Nobody actually did the enforcement. But the part of the reasoning for that was that, well, in America, the ability to freely move about and assemble in public property and stuff like that is so sacrosanct and entrenched that a curfew legally cannot be imposed to a certain degree. That still holds true right now, just as it held true for the last couple of months. And, like, any of the damages that the police have caused because of the enforcement of the curfew and the lengthy lawsuits that will happen will likely be lost by the city of Atlanta. So, you know, from a on-paper constitutional standpoint, they really don't have a leg to stand on. And in a practical, real-world standpoint, especially compared to other cities, what's really happening is a forced dispersal of people because they do not like the, as Ray has rightfully pointed out, the image that it paints to Atlanta to not be as utopic as it likes to pretend it is.
Yeah.
As Don just said, it's literally the First Amendment.
Right.
That's our first right. That
Yeah.
James Madison had to, like, it's interesting why James Madison wrote the Bill of Rights. He was responding to Jefferson. He was just like, this Constitution seems a little restrictive. And so James Madison was like, all right, let's redo this a bit. And he wrote these Bill of Rights to preface everything in the rest of the Constitution. Clearly, there's no point in seceding from the British, you know, Commonwealth unless you have every right to, respect, you know, redress of grievances, petition to government, right, of peaceful assembly. Of course, you know, freedom of speech is what everybody assumes that's all it says, and then there's no law respecting the establishment of religion prohibiting the free exercise thereof, which was the last few months. But then, you know, like that's where we're kind of at. Sorry, that's a weird phrase.
Yeah. But, yeah, no, it's that fundamental right. And as Don posted in chat and as you echoed as well, it's, you know, those core values of the Bill of Rights, particularly the First Amendment, are at a very, very dangerous spot right now with the way this is being handled specifically in Atlanta. And I know I've spoken to this with Ray before, but there's a culture in Georgia of authoritarianism that has existed before the foundation of America, and the fact that Georgia was a hotbed of loyalist activity and continued on into the civil rights movement in the way the Confederacy was here, is that, you know, there has been a culture that has set Georgia apart from the rest of America in particular, in that it sort of believed that aristocracy was the right way and that the Enlightenment movement didn't reflect that. And I think that can be traced down even into the way that this has been done. There's just that culture of authoritarianism that, kind of like Foucault points out, who's a French philosopher of social science, it's unwritten but sometimes more powerful than the written law and culture. And I think that's part of what we need to combat, is that unwritten authoritarianism that overwrites the First Amendment, because the First Amendment is way more important than, you know, should be way more powerful, should override any cultural want of an aristocracy to oppress the people underneath them, and in fact exist expressly to prohibit that from happening for at least the rest of the country. And I fear for the rest of the country falling down this way and us moving back into the Roman, or perhaps it always existed, the Roman class stratification in which the patricians have more of a vote than the rest of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
To know a lot of the romanticism of the fascists to bring back Roman class style hierarchy to Italy. The initial fascist movement was like to bring back the Roman.
Right, because
obviously the Reich itself.
Yeah, we get from a language perspective, the word fascism comes from the Latin word fasci, which is the bundle of sticks put together, and each stick in the bundle represents each class. And if during a Roman triumph or a Roman parade, there would be two guardsmen that wielded the fasci and would wield it as a weapon to move people along, to say that because we have the class system and we work together as a unit is the reason why Rome is strong. And that's the reason why, as a philosophy, fascism is about there being an upper class and a lower class and an even lower subjugated class. In the context of the history of fascism, we typically think of World War II, and there's usually a racial bent to it. But starting with Mussolini, which is one of the earlier fascists of the modern era, it is a callback, just as you said, Chris, to that Roman ideal, and that is the worry that we're moving into fascism.
Starbucks getting broken.
Yeah.
That But I'm sorry, I just said something that's anti-fascist, and that makes me a terrorist. But it's I feel okay if I'm labeled a terrorist because I'm okay with the OG original terrorist John Hancock and my boys who formed this country.
There we go.
Represent.
Yeah.
And Crispus Attucks, Crispus Attucks, the man who was shot in the Boston Massacre, the first casualty of the American Revolution, a black man
Yes.
that the British claimed started the riot and they were only being defensive to. If that is not poignant to what is going on screen right now, I don't know what is.
Right. Exactly. Ugh.
Yeah. I mean, literally, the Boston Tea Party was a response to Crispus Attucks being shot.
Yeah.
So our modern Tea Party is not a response to any black man.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. You brought that up. That's a ghost, man. That's a hell of a ghost you brought up.
I'm a student of history. That's what I do. That's what I study.
We need just like huge, like that's what we need, because like you said, I didn't even think about how the fasci were used that way, where they held them horizontally and they pushed forward.
Yeah.
So the axe was like, you don't want to be in the center, you're gonna get hit by an axe.
Right.
So you just get like corralled out of the way.
Yeah.
Well, fuck it. The protesters, we need like just a massive freaking Martin Luther King like thing that they can carry forward, and we need a massive freaking Crispus Attucks thing they can carry forward.
Right.
And just sit there right in front of the cops with them.
Right.
Staring down at them. You know?
You
like,
being on camera?
Right there at CNN Center. If they're not willing to freaking put a picture at a goddamn, Martin Luther King, Crispus Attucks, like, statue, then fuck them. You know, like, everybody else has cameras. So yeah.
So he just said they're going to start using full force in about 5 or 10 minutes.
What's going on in Hollywood?
YouTube, actual intelligence.
Some people were on a roof earlier.
And 40,000 people watching on Twitch.
I mean, that's sensible. They, I don't know. Particularly, it's obviously a helicopter view, so.
In a moment of levity, real quick, Damien, at least for a temporary amount of time, got a hold of his phone, and people are posting things in support of Damien right now. My buddy Kendall, he's a black software developer here, deeply affected by what's going on in Atlanta, was said, this is in support of you, and then posted as his freedom song, and then I clicked into the link. The freedom song is Chocolate Rain by Tazon Day.
Secret.
Kendall, you're brilliant. I want you to know.
Tazon was way ahead of everybody. Tazon knew the shit was happening. Alright, I'm going to have to head out.
What is this guy doing?
So I can be able to get ready for
one cop.
Alright, that's
thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Chris.
If you're up for doing it tomorrow night or any other time you have access to, we can organize that and do this again.
Yeah. Given circumstances, I might be able to have a more guaranteed internet connection right now.
Okay.
Playing along the periphery, so.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, if I have to, I'm gonna make a move.
You guys take care. Tell Damien, keep going strong.
Yeah.
Hopefully everything's gonna be okay for him, but
All right. Thank you, man.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Don, and everybody else in chat for being here as well. You guys take care.
Guys, I have to bail out of there.
Yeah.
Keep safe.
Stay safe,
Bye,
man.
Chris.
See ya.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it'd probably be a good idea to continue this while protests go on.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna.
And then beyond that, with our leftist commentary.
Yes, I am totally
Real
down.
goals.
I'm totally down for that. If you could just give me one moment though, I need to go grab some water.
You know what? I'm actually gonna call it a night as well. It is 11:11. I too have to get ready. For tomorrow. So I'm gonna bid you and everyone in chat and Dawn. Thank you, Dawn. Good night. Let's try to do this again tomorrow. And Damien, good luck. Let me know, Zach, when you find out something about how he is doing.
Yeah, I will, and I think I'll also sign off on tonight as well. We've gone for 3 hours almost.
Go us.
Yeah,
Wow.
and we will return tomorrow night and see if we can't keep this as a regular thing going on. Thank you everyone who stopped by. I'm going to immediately download the VOD and upload it to YouTube, and then download it to keep it backed up so that we can distribute it. See everybody. See everyone around.
All right. Bye, everyone. Good night. Stay safe out there and stay healthy.